Schools Division of Rojas City. And of course, I would like to say thank you to the convener and of course the proprietor of the department. Hello everyone, this is Ramon Paras Jr. of the Department of Education, Schools Division of Rojas City. And of course, I would like to say thank you to the convener and of course the proprietor of Beyond Books Publication and of course the convener of this 2021 International Multidisciplinary Research Conference, Dr. Leonilo D. Capolso. And of course, I'd like to give my sincerest gratitude to SDO Rojas City family for allowing me to join in this and present in this International Multidisciplinary Research Conference, to our Schools Division Superintendent, Sir Feliciano C. Buenafed Jr., our Assistant Schools Division Superintendent, Mr. Rogelio P. Amador, and of course, our SGOD Chief, Dr. Nerissa Vicente, and to our research expert in the Schools Division of Rojas City, the Senior Education Program Specialist for Planning and Research, Dr. Delpha A. Apelo. Thank you very much for your support and your guidance for me to be able to present today. So my study is focused on the title, Language Anxiety and Reading Comprehension of 6th Graders. And learning the English language is part and parcel of the public school curriculum. Students to report about the read text or the text that they read, they feel nervous and tense to talk about to the class. And they are anxious to express their ideas in English. As a result, they forfeit the opportunity to convey the information they were able to comprehend, and they miss the chance to interact with the members of the class. So given this scenario, it can therefore be concluded that they have developed language anxiety. And according to Papa Mihil, language anxiety is dependent upon the interactions with others, and on the other hand, according to Vygotsky, learning is dependent upon the social interactions that occurs in the classroom, and that withdrawal from the interaction is a result of language anxiety, which can be great cause of failure in a language teaching as well as to students learning to read, resulting to poor reading comprehension. So with such observation, the researcher made to ponder why the learners display such behavior, and maybe such behavior can affect their achievement, specifically their reading comprehension. And of course, based on the concepts and thorough explanation presented by language experts, the learners had probably developed language anxiety. So with such observation, it motivated the researcher to investigate if there is a relationship between the language anxiety and reading comprehension. And this study is actually anchored on the self-efficacy theory of Bandura. It postulates that when a condition is felt threatening, the subsequent anxiety is dependent on an individual's judgment on his capacity to deal positively with the threat, and self-esteem is an extenuating factor in anxiety-producing situations. And in classroom situations, threatening conditions would have an adverse effect on students' learning, and students preoccupied with the threatening learning situation and could not focus on the task they need to accomplish. And it loses students' automatic actions to function effectively, since their attention is redirected to tasks unrelated processing brought about by anxiety. And these studies actually aim to determine the level of anxiety and reading comprehension of 6th graders in Rojas City District 3, and the research was actually conducted to 240 randomly selected 6th graders, and stratified proportional random sampling was used in the identification and selection of the pupil participants from the elementary schools in District 3. And to determine among the 6th graders pupils, okay, actually the participants of this research were grade 6 pupils, no? And the lottery techniques was used, and all the names of grade 6 pupils in Rojas City 3 were taken from the schools, and all the names of the participants were written in a small piece of paper, and it was rolled and placed in a separate box and designated for each school, and the required number of participants per school was drawn from each box. And the instruments used in the study were the language anxiety scale. This is to determine the level of anxiety, the English language anxiety, and then the reading comprehension test. This is to determine the level of comprehension, and of course, we have included the personal data sheet or information sheet to get the profile of the respondents. And of course, based from the results that we have, so in general, there is the moderate level of language anxiety among our learners with 2.93 mean. And for the reading comprehension, the reading comprehension level of the learners was moderately high, which has 19.15 mean. And also, there is a significant but negative relationship between the level of language anxiety and reading comprehension level. So this indicates that pupils who have high level of language anxiety tend to have lower reading comprehension level. And the 6th graders have moderate level of language anxiety, except those pupils whose parents have achieved postgraduate level or higher, where they have low level of anxiety. So this indicates that parents' education influences how children behave in school. Parents who have achieved higher level of learning would have a broader range of understanding on child psychology, which leads them on becoming good parents. Quality parenting shapes positive self-esteem system or self-system process among children. If children are molded by caring and secure home environment, it would create a positive impact on how they act inside the classroom, and they would develop constructive behavior towards authorities such as teachers. And the reading comprehension level of 6th graders of Varsity District 3 was moderately high, except for those pupils whose parents have achieved college level and higher. This points that there are students who possess over self-confidence, and those who are too much confident about themselves end up not realizing what they can do, and they are overwhelmed how well they perform on a certain task, and they even cannot accurately gauge their strengths and weaknesses, so as a result they fail to perform effectively and efficiently on certain tasks due to inaccurate self-assessment of their ability. And also the reading comprehension is inversely related with language anxiety. This means that if the pupil's language anxiety level is high, their performance in reading is decreasing or negatively affected in how they perceive about their ability. And moreover, students who have high level of language anxiety tend to have lower reading level comprehension. And of course, to lessen the anxiety felt by the pupils in a language class, teacher may employ strategies and techniques that would promote less anxious learning experiences for them, and he should also display a pleasant and congenial way of handling pupils whenever he conducts his class. Similarly, teachers could make an authentic assessment on the kind of school-related anxiety felt by students through informal interviews with parents and other persons related to students, and this may be of help to determine what factors trigger for the pupils to act anxiously. And furthermore, teachers teaching in a big classes may group students according to their ability, but labeling should be avoided in order not to cause a negative feeling or creating low self-esteem among students. And they may be provided with differentiated activities based on the student's level of ability, so as to alleviate the stress they feel in class. And also, teacher may also conduct regular one-on-one consultation with parents. Such meeting would be a proper venue to talk on their children's problems and achievement in school, and it is also an opportunity to discuss on the feasible options to take in improving their children's school performance. And to improve the pupils' reading comprehension, teachers may use strategies that promote stress-free reading classes, such as the utilization of interesting and attractive graphic organizers, in which graphic organizers provide scaffold to facilitate learners' better understanding of the selection read, and at the same time reduces their anxiety. And studies show that through the use of GEOs, it would enhance and facilitate learners to act and engage effectively on the reading task assigned. And of course, that's all the result of my research work entitled Language Anxiety and Reading Comprehension of 6th Graders. Thank you very much, everyone, for your listening heart. Good day.
Good day. I am Maria Corazon A. Bourbon. The title of my study is The Evaluation on the Compliance of Region 4A Teachers with Continuing Professional Development Act of 2016 or also known as RA 10912 Implementation, Basis for Policy Enhancement. Philippine Constitution, Article 2, Section 17 state that the state shall give priority to education, science and technology, arts, culture and sports to foster patriotism and nationalism, accelerate social progress, and promote total human liberation and development. While Republic Act No. 7836, also known as the Philippine Teachers Professionalization Act of 1994, aims to strengthen the regulation and supervision of the practice teaching in the Philippines and prescription of a licensure examination for teachers. While the Magna Carta for Public School Teachers, otherwise known as Republic Act No. 4670, envisioned to provide programs for the promotion and improvement of well-being and economic status of public school teachers. The recent Republic Act No. 7784 is an act which stipulates to strengthen teacher education in the Philippines, thus establishing centers of excellence and creating a Teacher Education Council. A 10912 or CPT Act of 2016 mandates the enhancement and upgrading of the professional competence according to practices of international standards. The PRC, as it implements RA 10912, has approved the application of the DepEd through NAIAP as the accredited CPD provider for teachers through Resolution No. 1032, Series of 2017 with accreditation number 2017-115. LAC session also part of the accreditation. But these dilemmas are in no way different to that are experienced by the professional around the world, such as poor or non-participation of teachers in CPD activities, lack of interest by some educators, lack of support by the school management, the cost of travel and cover, the teacher's attitude, especially in not taking advantage of the CPD opportunities, or because there is a reluctance on the part of the teachers to acknowledge the need for development. Thus, this study wants to explore the current scenarios on the implementation of CPD Act in Region 4A. For this study, the conceptual framework, the input, are the demographic profile of the respondents, understanding the practice of the CPD among professional teachers, the approaches in the implementation of CPD law, and activities for the accruement of CPD credit points. For the process, I used the survey and interview, the focus group discussion, and the triangulation, which involves the quantitative and the qualitative method. For the output is the policy recommendation to enhance implementation of RA 10912 or CPD law. This study would be significant to the following group. First, the PRC as a basis for further review of the current implementation of CPD law for teachers to come up with an improved implementation plan. Navigate to continue to commission the high-quality learning and development activities from identified and accredited training providers. And also, measuring the quality and impact of CPD is essential to understand its efficacy, as well as to demonstrate its more immediate value to individual professionals and employers. This would also be significant to the DepEd Human Resource and Training Development, for it can provide a baseline data on the CPD practices for teachers. This data or the result of the study could give them viable information about the CPD activities that teachers were engaged to help them comply with the CPD law. The result also helps to aspire to integrate the competently and practiced innovation in CPD and respond to professional demands of the teachers. This study would also be significant to the CPD providers because it can provide with a clear idea on how to plan and design CPD activities that will be offered to help address the teacher's IPPD. And also, they must develop activities and trainings which promote confidence, creativity, flexibility, capability, and performance. While for the teachers, this study aimed to provide an eye-opener and ideas so that teachers would understand fully how their needs for the learners as well as for the instruction will be bridged on them. Encourage choose processes, whether intuitive or deliberate, individual or social, that could result in specific changes in their professional knowledge, skills, attitudes, belief, or action. Hopefully, this study would also benefit the student since further planning and development for the students will be involved. Broader changes that take place over a long period resulting in qualitative shifts in aspects of teacher professionalism through CPD may be cascaded for the betterment of students' learning. Lastly, this could benefit the researchers as a source of related theoretical underpinnings for their future studies, and they may also further improve or add additional inputs to the policy recommendations endeavored as a terminal aim of the present research. For the methodology, I used the descriptive research method. The respondents of the study were the teachers and school heads from the large schools in Region 4A Calabarzon, coming from the 5 schools division of Laguna, Quezon, San Pablo City, Tayaba City, and Lucena City. The schools chosen were the best and the better performing schools. The number of respondents was computed using the Cochrane formula. For the research instrument, I used a research-made questionnaire checklist where that checklist underwent a series of validation. For the statistical treatment, I used the frequency and percentage and median in the treatment of data and the Kruskal-Wallis H test and Mann-Whitney U test to find the significance of some related data. As to compliance to research ethics, I observed honesty, objectivity, respect for intellectual property, and confidentiality. After the data gathering, these are the findings of my study. The respondents are generally 31 to 40 years old, which is 119 or 29.8%. Mostly female, 323 or 80.8%. They are married, 295 or 73.8%. And completed their bachelor's degree, which is 234 or 58.5%. They have rendered 10 to 20 years and just renewed their PRC ID on 2019, which is 167 or 41.8%. As to the extent of the CPD law implementation for respondents' evaluation in terms of the following areas, these are the findings. The respondents agree on that they have adequate understanding of RA 10912 or the CPD law, but generally disagree on the sponsors of CPD activities participation, particularly the Canteen Fund and Parents Teachers Association voluntary contribution in sponsoring their professionals' requirement to afford CPD activities. The respondents generally agree on the benefits of undertaking the CPD. The respondents generally agree on the reasons for attending the CPD activities, in as much as the reason for not attending to CPD activities. They agree on the motivation for CPD activities or program participation and the support by the DepEd to ensure that teachers comply with CPD law. Respondents just sometimes engage in CPD programs for the past 3 years, and very often, the conventional approaches like lecture, demonstration lesson, and workshop are the modes of the CPD program's delivery, relatively planned and proactively processed by facilitators in the CPD providers. The respondents generally rarely accrued CPD points from attended activities, as they rarely become facilitator, moderator, resource speaker, trainer, demonstration teachers, panelist, reactor, and monitor. It is also rare that they become resource speaker only when there is inset or invitation for speaking engagement in other school. They generally never accrued CPD points from academic track. The respondents generally rarely accrued CPD points from self-directed training offered by non-accredited CPD providers, from self-directed training offered by non-accredited CPD providers, and from productive scholarship. They perceive that the training programs offered by the CPD providers very often address their IPPD needs. The respondents generally rated the CPD providers where CPD credit units are earned as sometimes. They generally strongly disagree with the supporting documents for CPD credit points, as only certificate of attendance and appreciation are commonly presented, since most of the professionals opt to participate in seminars and trainings than do other professional development activities. As to the statement, is there a significant difference on the evaluation of the implementation of CPD law by the respondents when they are grouped? The findings: understanding of CPD law and its current practices and approaches in the implementation of CPD law are evaluated by the respondents differently, considering their age, highest educational attainment, and length of service, but have relatively similar evaluation on the provision therein when respondents are grouped according to sex, civil status, and last renewal of their PRC ID. However, on the activities for accruement of CPD credit points, significant difference in the evaluation is only noted when respondents are grouped according to highest educational attainment and length of service. For the conclusion, the teachers' respondents are generally 31 to 40 years old, female, married with bachelor's degree, rendered relatively short length of service, and renewed their PRC license just recently. The respondents understand the law before its implementation, since they have knowledge and proper information of the law. Much of the CPD activities teachers attend to are advanced or graduate studies, and those which are closely related to their professional practice, such as inset and LAC sessions. The CPD training programs are proven to be significant and responsive to the professionals, though most of them just use the inset-based CPD points. The respondents' age, highest educational attainment, and length of services are generally the sources of difference in their evaluation of the compliance of the CPD law, in contrast to sex, civil status, and last renewal of the PRC ID. Thank you.
Good morning. I am Dr. Armida Natividad, currently the head teacher of the Science Department of P. Bernardo High School. I am presenting the result of my study conducted in 2020 entitled The Impact of the Performance Management Practices on School Organizational Climate. Humans are considered as the success factor for any establishment. People set the motion for the day-to-day activities and long-term plan. They are in direct contact with clients and stakeholders. It is therefore important that their interests at work and their commitment to their organization are sustained. Two important concepts have been proven to preserve the professional commitment of workers: keeping a positive organizational climate and applying an effective performance management system. Organizational climate, of course, refers to the atmosphere that the employees perceive of their organization. It is the perception of their organization. It cannot be emphasized enough that a good and decent climate that encourages employees to remain loyal and committed are created by effective managers who implement strategies that remove obstacles along the way. Performance management system is a system that is designed to identify strategies to achieve the organization's goals. It comprises the practices, procedures, and rewards that contribute to the employee's perception of climate that influence their attitude at work. The tactful management of man is a very important and challenging job because of the dynamic nature of the people. Humans have different mental abilities, sentiments, and behavior that are subject to various influences. The Performance Management System, or PMS, is the tool through which managers communicate what is expected of the employee. The Results-Based Performance Management System, or RPMS, was developed in 2012 through the Civil Service Commission Memorandum Circular Number 6, the Strategic Performance Management System, the 2015 DepEd Order Number 2 on the guidelines on the establishment and implementation of the RPMS in DepEd, and DepEd Order Number 42, Series of 2017, the development and validation of the PPST. In the Philippines, the performance management system that we use is the RPMS, or the Results-Based Performance Management System. This aims to help teachers to improve delivery of quality basic education, and it ensures the delivery of quality, accessible, relevant, and liberating basic education in the country. This study is significant because it helps the school administrators create the ideal climate that will lead to a higher quality of work. It shows the perceptions of both the school administrators and the teachers on the practice of the present performance management system. This is vital to the understanding of the school climate that functions closely with the performance management, since it operates on areas such as leadership, appreciation, and recognition, and quality. And finally, this study fills the gap in the current literature, testing the possible relationship between performance management and organizational climate that contributes to positive or negative operation of the school. Statement of the problem. Number 1, how do the school heads practice performance management as perceived by themselves and the department heads and the teacher respondents in terms of the following management practices: performance planning, monitoring and coaching, evaluation, and performance rewarding. Number 2, is there a significant difference on the perceptions of the three groups of respondents on the school head's practice of performance management? Number 3, what is the level of organizational climate in the respondent schools as perceived by the three groups of respondents in terms of the following variables: staff development, human relations, innovation, school community value orientation? Number 4, is there a significant difference in the perceptions of the three groups of respondents on the level of their organizational climate? Number 5, is there a significant relationship between the school administrators' performance management practices and their organizational climate? Lastly, what performance management process may be developed based on identified managerial practices and organizational climate? Research ethics involves the validation of the paper, which went through 2 principals, 3 doctors of education, 1 PSDS, and 2 school department heads. Pilot testing was done in a Quezon City high school with 8 department heads, 2 master teachers, and 8 classroom teachers. Permits were procured from the offices of the NCR director and the SDOs of Quezon City and Manila. Questionnaires were floated in 40 schools in both SDOs with 280 respondents, which were retrieved after a week. Sources were properly cited. Originality and authenticity was done through an online plagiarism checker. Identities of the respondents and their responses were kept confidential. Methodology. The methodology used descriptive type with purposive sampling and quantitative method using survey questionnaires. Statistical treatment made use of the weighted mean, one-way analysis of variance or ANOVA, and Pearson R, which was used to determine the significant relationship between the school heads' performance management practices and their organizational climate. Findings. For performance planning, it was revealed that the school head, that the overall mean for the school heads was 3.72 with a descriptive rating of being done to a high extent. Department head managed to have an overall mean of 3.729, also with the same descriptive rating, while that of the group of teacher respondents had a weighted average of 3.42 or moderate extent. The result shows heads believe that they conducted the performance planning to a high extent. The teachers believe that it's done to a moderate extent only. Planning gives the teacher the lack thereof will lead to confusion, frustration, non-commitment, and wasted work that is not aligned with expectations. For monitoring and coaching, the school head had, both school head and department head had a descriptive rating of high extent, obtained a moderate extent on that. The teachers wish to hear more feedback on how they are performing. For performance evaluation, both school heads and department heads and the teacher, all 3 groups had a descriptive rating of high extent that the school administrators manage well in performance evaluation, but need to adopt a joint problem-solving approach with the teacher's professional problems, and they should have a more extensive method of gauging competence. For performance rewarding, the data revealed that the rewards mechanism for good performance is in place, but could still be executed better if the performance-based incentive system or PBIS is linked to the process as an additional incentive in order to meet the development needs. The study showed that there is a significant difference on the perceptions of performance management practices. The discrepancy may be traced back to the misplaced focus of attention on how the teachers will adjust with the system rather than on the principle that it's actually for the improvement of their job. For the staff development, The average weighted mean for both the school heads and the department heads showed very high rating, while the teachers gave a high rating. This implies that not all teachers feel that the school administrators support and encourage faculty development. In this era of educational reforms, the teachers should be given the professional development assistance that they need. For human relations, all three groups gave an overall mean that equates to a very high descriptive rating. This data suggests that in spite of some complaints from the teachers, the school administrators are still doing a good job in maintaining a healthy school climate in terms of human relations. For innovation, the teacher gave a high rating in contrast to the very high rating given by the school head and the department head. Overall, the three groups of respondents gave a very high rating on the organizational climate in terms of school community. This means that solidarity may not always be solid and fairness may not always be observed, but a healthy climate still exists in the school. For the values that are observed in the school community, the school head, the department heads, and the teachers all gave a very high rating on that area. The test of significant differences in the perceptions of the three groups of respondents on the level of organizational climate reveals that based on the result, the teachers expressed their desire to be a part of staff development program planning and that they need support and resources to participate in the formulation of innovative measures on the school problems. The study showed that there is a very high relationship between the performance management practices and the level of organizational climate existing in a school. Finally, the data showed that there is a very high relationship between the performance management practices and the organizational climate in schools. The study also revealed the weakness in the implementation of the performance management system in DepEd. The findings showed a significant gap in the perception of the performance management between the teacher respondents and the group of school heads and department heads. Teachers believe that the objectives, responsibilities, and key activities should be discussed. It should be emphasized that monitoring and coaching should be done during the entire period of the performance cycle. The teachers revealed that the school head should pay more attention on the frequency of monitoring and tracking of performance against the objective set. Mid-year review is usually ignored and evaluation happens only at the end of the year. The findings imply that the school administrators manage well in performance evaluation but need to adopt a joint problem-solving approach with the teachers' professional problems and should have a more extensive view of gauging competence. The teacher should be properly assisted to ensure that they are equipped with the proper skills, competence, and mindset, and are likewise provided with the resources to address their problems in school. The teacher should be given the professional development assistance and the necessary resources to meet the high demands of globalization. Therefore, it is concluded that how the school administrator conducts the performance management system influences the school climate. If the performance management system promotes professional growth, decision-making, autonomy on innovation, and recognition for the work of each individual, then it will lead to a positive and healthy school climate. This is supported by the studies of Lumberton in 2019, which states that the best type of organizational climate is one that includes qualities such as high trust levels, a reasonable amount of autonomy in work tasks, high standards of fairness, and appropriate recognition for the work of each person. The study of Chokalingam in 2019 also supports this by saying that the management of an institution should ensure effective implementation of managerial policies to enhance the quality of organizational climate and performance management. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Good day, everyone. I am Dr. Sunny S. Maglente from Masbate Colleges, and I will be presenting to you the study entitled Experiences of Students of Graduate Studies and Research of Masbate Colleges. As to the background of the study, let me share with you the quote from Jack Mestman, which says, "Online learning is rapidly becoming one of the most cost-effective ways to educate the world's rapidly expanding workforce." The coronavirus disease, or COVID-19, which has become a pandemic, greatly affected the economy of the world. Some businesses have to be closed and worst, shut down operation. Movements of people are restricted. Hence, many activities have to be stopped or postponed, but not the education of the youth. Many schools, colleges, and universities opted to adopt online classes. Masbate Colleges is the first higher education institution in the province of Masbate to adopt this kind of learning delivery modality. The researcher is very much eager to know the experience of their graduate students, hence this study. For the methods, the research method is descriptive survey method. For the research respondents, the respondents were the students of graduate studies and research of Masbate Colleges. For sampling procedure, I did not employ any kind of sampling procedure, as I considered all graduate students as respondents to my study. As to the research instrument, the study utilized the questionnaire as the main instrument in gathering the needed data. Statistical treatment of the data gathered were subject to statistical treatment specifically through the following measures. 1. Frequency and percentage for the profile of the graduate students, their speed of internet connectivity, the ICT tools used in online classes, multimedia tools used in synchronous classes, and LMS, or the learning management system, used in asynchronous classes. And number 2, weighted mean for the level of competence of graduate students. As to the results and discussion, let me start with age. 31 or 26.72% are 20 to 27 years old. 54 or 46.55% are 28 to 35 years old. 20 or 17.24% are 26 to 43 years old. 9 or 7.76% are 44 to 51 years old. And 2 or 1.72% are 52 to 59 years old. As to sex, 31 or 26.72% are males, while 85 or 73.28% are females. As to degree, 95 or 81.90% are taking up Master of Arts in Education, while 21 or 18.10% are taking up Doctor of Philosophy. As to congressional district, 1 or 0.86 is a resident of 1st Congressional District. 22 or 18.97 are residents of 2nd Congressional District, and 93 or 80.76, 17% are residents of 3rd Congressional District. Hence, majority of the respondents are 20 to 35 years old, females, MA students, and residents of 3rd Congressional District. For the speed of internet connectivity of graduate students, 3 or 2.59% have very fast internet connectivity. 70 or 60.34% have fast internet connectivity. 39 or 33.62% have slow internet connectivity. And 4 or 3.45% have very slow internet connectivity. Hence, majority of the respondents, or 60.34%, have fast internet connectivity. As to ICT tools used in online classes, 81 or 69.83% use laptop, 8 or 6 point PC, 111 or 95.69% use smartphone, 6 or 5.17% use tablet, and majority of the respondents used laptop and the smartphone in attending online classes. As to multimedia tools in synchronous classes, 114 or 98.28% used Google Meet, and 98 or 84.48% used Zoom. As to the learning management system, or LMS, used in asynchronous classes, it can be observed that all 116 students, or 100% of the respondents, used Google Classroom as their LMS. As to the level of competency in creating and presenting information, documents at a weighted mean of 3.37, spreadsheets at a weighted mean of 3.18, and drawings at a weighted mean of 2.97, all interpreted as competent. Presentations at a weighted mean of 2.34, interpreted as less competent, and the average weighted mean is 2.97, interpreted as competent. For the level of competency in video recording, Bandicam has the weighted mean of 2.76, built-in OS video had a weighted mean of 2.65, Loom had a weighted mean of 2.72, and Zoom, all interpreted as competent. Zoom had a weighted mean of 3.55, and Google Meet had a weighted mean of 3.94, and both interpreted as very competent. The average weighted mean is 3.07, interpreted as competent. For the level of competency in authoring tools, Adobe Photoshop had a weighted mean of 3.13, Adobe Captivate had a weighted mean of 3.43, Camtasia had a weighted mean of 3.33, and Prezi had a weighted mean of 2.87. All Interpretora had a weighted mean of 2.33, interpreted as less competent. The average weighted mean was 3.02, interpreted as competent. For the conclusions, based on the findings of the study, the following conclusions were derived. Number 1, majority of the respondents are 20 to 35 years old, females, residents of 3rd Congressional District, and MAED students. Number 2, graduate students have. Number 3, laptop and smartphones are used in attending online classes. Number 4, Google Meet is widely used in synchronous classes, while Google Classroom is used by all students in asynchronous classes. And finally, number 5, graduate students are competent in creating and presenting information, video recording, and authoring tools. Thank you so much. That ends my presentation.
A pleasant day to everyone. Today, allow me to present my research entitled Administrative Leadership Behavior Principles, Its Influence on Teachers' Performance. Yours truly, I'm from Division of Malolos, Department of Education, Philippines, Christopher P. Rojas. According to Latewood et al. 2008, successful leadership in schools found evidence indicating that principals' leadership practices, such as leadership behaviors, affect teachers' emotions, which in turn shape the motivation and performance at work. And with that, the problem of the study is to assess the administrative leadership behavior of principals and its influence on teachers' performance in public elementary schools in District 2 and 7 of Schools Division of City of Malolos. Specifically, how may the administrative leadership behavior of principals be described in terms of the following: communication, consideration, discipline, empowering staff, flexibility, influence with supervisors, inspiring group purpose, modeling instructional expectation, monitoring and evaluating instruction, providing contingent reward, and situational awareness? Second one, how may the teacher's performance be described in terms of the following results: self-management, professionalism and ethics, result focus, teamwork, service orientation, innovation, oral communication, written communication, and computer and ICT skills? Thirdly, does the principal's administrative leadership behavior significantly influence teachers' performance? And fourth, what strategic action plan may be proposed based from the findings of the study? For the methods, this study used descriptive correlational method of research wherein after the participants answer the questions, the researcher describes the responses given. The design also systematically investigates the relationship among variables as well as determining cause and effect relationship between two or more quantifiable variables. Specifically, researcher is after the influence of administrative leadership behavior on teachers' performance, which is also the conceptual framework of the study, which is anchored on Bandura's reciprocal determinism, which states that the world and a person's behavior causes each other. So we can view there the world as the school with your personnel, and the person's behavior as the behavior of the principal. So they causes each other according to this theory. And with that, the respondents of the study were the 120 elementary teachers from public elementary schools of the District 2 and 7 of Schools Division of Malolos. And the total number of population was used to ensure the efficiency and validity of the study. For the instrument, this study used a standardized questionnaire to measure principals' administrative leadership behavior that was developed by Okra in year 2011. With internal reliability index, Cronbach's alpha of 0.85, which is high, and the standardized instrument for teachers' performance was adopted from the Result-Based Performance Management System, or RPMS, set by the Department of Education. For the statistical treatment, the data collected were tabulated and processed using statistical packages for social sciences, or SPSS. In order to analyze and interpret the data gathered, the following statistical measures were used. For the administrative leadership behavior, a rating scale of 5 ranging from 4.50 to 5.0 is very high. 4 from 3.50 to 4.49 is high. 3 from 2.50 to 3.49 average. 2 with a range of 1.5 to 2.49 low. And 1 with a range of 1 to 1.49 is very low. Same goes with the RPMS of our teachers with the same rating scale and range. A rating scale of 5 is outstanding, 4 very satisfactory, 3 satisfactory, 2 unsatisfactory, 1 poor. And regression analysis used in determining the influence of principals' administrative leadership behavior on teachers' performance. Table 2 presents the administrative leadership behavior of principals. Particularly, in terms of communication, they are very high, especially in establishing strong lines of communication with and among students and teachers. They are highly considerate, especially in expressing genuine concern for the welfare of the teachers. They are highly disciplined, particularly in protecting teachers from intrusions into their instructional time. They highly empower staff by providing opportunities for teachers to make decisions about their work and to be involved in school-wide decisions. They are highly flexible in utilizing varied leadership behaviors as necessary. They are highly influential with supervisors. They are highly inspired group purpose in creating an environment where all teachers are part of a team. They highly model instructional expectations based on their beliefs in instructional process and emphasizes the importance of the instruction that takes place in the classroom. They highly monitor and evaluate instruction by keeping an eye on what is happening in the school. They highly provide contingent reward, formally and informally, and they are highly aware of the situation of the school in details and concerns regarding the functioning of schools and uses this information to address the current and potential problems. For teachers' performance in terms of self-management, it is considered very high, especially in setting personal goals, undertaking personal actions, displaying emotional maturity, prioritizing work tasks and schedules, and setting high-quality, challenging, realistic goals for self and others. Table 4, teachers' performance in terms of professionalism and ethics, also very satisfactory. Very satisfactory in terms of demonstrating the values and behavior, practicing ethical and professional behavior, maintaining professional image, making personal sacrifices, and act with a sense of urgency and responsibility. In terms of result focus, also very satisfactory in achieving results with optimal use of time and resources, avoiding rework and mistakes, delivering error-free outputs, expressing a desire to do better, and making specific changes in the system or in its own work methods to improve performance. Also, a very satisfactory teamwork in terms of willingly do their share responsibility, promoting collaboration, applying negotiation principles, driving consensus and team ownership of decisions, working constructively and collaboratively with others. Next one, we have service orientation. Is also very satisfactory, wherein they can explain and articulate organizational directions, taking personal responsibility, initiating activities that promotes advocacy for men and women empowerment, participating in updating of office vision, mission, and mandates, and developing and adapting service improvement programs. In terms of innovation, again, very satisfactory in examining the root cause of problems, fostering new ideas, demonstrating an ability to think beyond the box, translating and creating thinking into tangible changes, and usage of ingenious methods to accomplish responsibilities. In terms of oral communication, they are also very satisfactory by following instructions accurately, expressing their self clearly, using appropriate medium for the message, adjust communication style to others, guides discussions between and among peers to meet an objective. And also with written communication, very satisfactory with the mean of 4.17, wherein they knew the different written communication formats. They are writing in written correspondence and communications. They secure information from required references. They self-edit words, numbers, and phonetics, notation, and etc. And they demonstrate clarity, fluency, impact, and conciseness, and effectiveness in his or her written communication. And lastly, for ICT skills, also very satisfactory, wherein they can prepare basic compositions, identify different computer parts, prepare simple presentation using PowerPoint, utilizes technologies to access information, and recommend appropriate and updated technology to enhance productivity and professional practice. For our Table 12, regression analysis of principals' administrative leadership behavior on teacher performance, it was hypothesized in the study that administrative leadership behavior of principals does not significantly influence teachers' performance. To determine the extent of influence of the said variable, And the result of the regression run in Table 12 revealed that the administrative leadership behavior of principals in terms of communication and discipline obtained B coefficients of 0.184 and 0.133 respectively, with associated probability less than 0.05. This means that for every unit increase in communication and discipline could generate an increase of 0.184 and 0.133 on teachers' performance respectively. On the other hand, a unit increase could generate an increase of 0.183 on teachers' performance, which was found significant also with a p-value of 0.020. Analysis of the obtained beta coefficient revealed as the obtained values of 0.233 for communication, 0.233 for discipline, and 0.238 for monitoring and evaluating instruction, which means that communication accounts 23.3% contribution to teachers' performance, same as with discipline with 23.3% contribution, and monitoring and evaluating instruction contributes 23.8% on teachers' performance. The administrative leadership behaviors consideration, empowering staff, flexibility, influence with supervisors, inspiring group purpose, modeling instructional competence, providing contingent reward, and situational awareness are also influential with teachers' performance, but not to a significant extent, since their obtained p-values are less than 0.05. Analysis of the obtained F ratio of 32.287 significant at 0.05 alpha means that the 11th in monitoring and evaluating instruction. And with that, this strategic action plan is being proposed for the administrative leadership behavior principles within in communication, discipline, evaluating instruction, by attendance of principals to trainings and seminars and workshops that will improve their administrative leadership behaviors, emphasizing on the said areas. And there will be regular observations and monitoring of School Governance and Operations Division or SGOD team of the Schools Division of City of Malolos among principals with regards to their improved communication, disciplinary and monitoring and evaluating behavior, and other administrative leadership behavior in schools. From first semester of the school year to second semester of the school year with a budget of both 30,000 and 40,000. And the success indicator is the improvement of rating of communication discipline, monitoring and evaluating instruction, and the other administrative leadership behaviors from high and very high. And with that, there should also be improvement of teachers' performance in RPMS from the lowest noted rating to a higher level of performance. For the conclusion, the high administrative leadership behaviors of principals, as evaluated by public school teachers, are an indication of their effective management of school systems. The performance of teachers is rated as very satisfactory, but can still be enhanced into outstanding performance. The administrative leadership behaviors of principals significantly influence teachers' performance, and the strategic action plan may be necessary to address the limitations identified in the study. And in light with these conclusions, this study recommends that principals maintain or further enhance their high quality of administrative leadership behaviors. That public school teachers maintain or improve their very satisfactory performance in schools through professional development and regular monitoring and evaluation and feedbacking of higher authorities in order to be aware of the performance indicators they need to further improve. That principals should be aware and sensitive with their way of communication, discipline, monitoring and evaluating instruction, for they were found to be significant influencers. That this strategic action plan may be adopted by the Schools Division of City of Malolos to further improve the quality of education in the department. And with that, this is where I rest my research. Thank you for listening, and God bless us all. Keep safe, everyone. Thank you.
Good day. I am Janice Tagle Bautista, Master in Educational Management, presented the thesis with the title Multimedia and Learners' Engagement among Grade 12 Students in Grade 6, Quezon City. Background of the study. This study applied multimedia and grade 12 students in District 6 of Quezon City and evaluated the perception and the use of multimedia to learners' engagement. The main purpose of this study is to determine if the utilization of multimedia as teaching method would create an impact on senior high school learners' engagement during the class sessions. An information and communication and technologies empowered education system that changes students into dynamic lifelong learners and value-centered, beneficial and mindful residents depended on the DepEd 5-year ICT4E strategic plan entitled 21st Century Education for All Filipinos Anytime Anywhere by DepEd 2008. In the year 2010, the DepEd or the Department of Education began the delivery of ICT packages. The intention is to provide public schools with the proper technology that would help the teachers' improvement of the educating learning process and addresses the challenges of the 21st century. According to the Carson 2008, most of the teachers prefer teaching through multimedia to get learners' attention, and they thought that the students will be more engaged once they teach in their expectations. Sometimes, the success of the education at all levels is not easy to achieve. Students learn more when they are strongly focused in education and will apply it in different settings. Multimedia applications together with the individual approaches within the didactic process can help in the direction of Milkova 2014. Significance of the study. The Department of Education. This study will be beneficial as reference for the current program of the department regarding the ICT utilization to analyze the needs of the teachers and students that can lead to the improvement of using multimedia and students' engagement. This study will contribute to the development of school performance facilities, students' performance, and standard of the school. This will also help as basis for the implementing to raise curriculum and how to enhance the learning process for the 21st generation of learners. This study will benefit the teachers in terms of teaching strategies. It will help them know new possible strategies of teaching that will engage students' interest in learning instructions. This study will be beneficial for students to be aware of what might be the result of using multimedia as their teacher's new teaching method in accordance with their studies. They will mostly benefit from this study because it will enhance their enthusiasm in learning through multimedia. This study will help the parents to know that their child's performance is in accordance to learning through multimedia. For the future researchers, this study will help them expand their ideas and knowledge of using multimedia as teachers' strategy of teaching and their possible impact on students' academic performance. Methods of research. This thesis followed the approach of descriptive analysis and data collection. Descriptive research has been used for the purpose of this study to identify, clarify, and verify the experience of the respondents in using multimedia to the level of engagements of the learners. Population, sample size, and sampling techniques. The respondents of the study were grade 12 students from Public Senior High School of District 6 of Quezon City. The total of 223 participants were used in the study out of 503 total population using Slovin's formula. By using simple random sampling, participants were selected. The simple method of random sampling was carried out where each member of the population had the same opportunity to become part of the sample. The researcher first identified the population, listed all the members of the population, and then selected members to make the sample to carry out the sampling strategy. To this end, the respondents were given a survey questionnaire in the Likert scale format to answer. Research instrument. Because the survey questionnaire used was revised one, the experts were consulted. Their comments and suggestions further helped the researcher in polishing the questionnaire. Before the distribution of the instrument, the questionnaire was checked by the experts for revision and was administered to the 30 students of grade 12 senior high school students who were not part of the respondents. To examine the relationship of perception in applying multimedia to the interaction of learners, the researchers created a questionnaire. The research instrument is divided into two parts. Part 1, the students' survey provides 12 items to measure the perception on using multimedia as adopted from 1 to 2014. The items utilized a 5-point scale for perception on using multimedia. The mean rating obtained by the sample were converted into qualitative description. Part 2 contains 3 sections related to learners' engagement, affective, behavioral, and cognitive engagement, which are 18 items adopted by Hart, Stewart, and Jemerson of 2011. For the students' answer, a 5-point Likert type scale was used for the survey. For students' level of engagement when multimedia device is being used during class discussion, the mean rating obtained by the sample were converted into qualitative description. Data gathering procedure. The researchers submitted a letter seeking permission to conduct research study to the School Division of Quezon City, particularly in District 6 Senior High School addressed to the school division superintendent. After securing the permit, the approved letter was presented to the school administrators and to the senior high school coordinator where the survey was conducted. After the approval, the researcher administered the copies of approved questionnaire to gather the relevant data from the selected students of grade 12 senior high school in District 6 of Quezon City. The researcher presented the survey to students providing the direction and distributed the survey form or questionnaire to the participants. Collection of the questionnaire was carried out by the researcher. Statistical treatment of data. For accurate statistical treatment of data and in order to achieve in-depth interpretation of the findings, the researcher made use of the following: weighted mean and person product moment correlation coefficient. Weighted is measure of central tendency. However, they're neither agree nor disagree in that idea that multimedia is better than a traditional instruction with a weighted mean of 3.46. And multimedia does not create problems in the learning process obtain the weighted mean of 3.26. It can be deduced that the perception on using multimedia amounted to the equivalent of a grand weighted mean of 3.83. As revealed by the Table 3, majority of the respondents assess a statement about the level of effective engagement when multimedia device is being used during the class discussion as highly engaged. However, only one item shows that students disagree not engage that using multimedia device as tool for learning is boring. This finding is further supported by the computed weighted mean of 2.43. It was found that the students, when this is being utilized, is highly engaged. As revealed in the table, when multimedia device is being used during classroom discussion, the level of behavioral engagement of the students when this is being utilized is highly engaged. The two highest mean values of 4.04, 3.19 respectively specifically were statements: I try hard to do well in school and I pay attention in class. The two statements which got the lowest and the similar weighted mean of 3.71 were I volunteer to help with school activities and I take an active role in the school activities. It was found that generally the behavioral engagement of the students when this is being utilized is highly engaged. This conclusion is anchored to the computed grand weighted mean of 3.84. The level of cognitive engagement with multimedia devices being used during the class discussion is the data shown. Furthermore, the lowest two weighted mean are as follows. When I study, I try to connect what I am learning with my own experience. It can be deduced that students are highly engaged. This finding is further solidified by the computed weighted mean of 4.0. When I study, I figure out how the information might be useful in the real world. It can be deduced that students are highly engaged. This finding is further solidified by the computed weighted mean of 4.0. When learning things by school, I often try to associate them with what I learned in school classes about the same or similar things. It can be deduced that students are highly engaged. This finding is further solidified with a computed weighted mean of 3.9. It was found that generally the computed cognitive engagement of the students when this is being utilized is highly engaged. This conclusion is anchored on the computed graduated mean of 4.02. The table presented in the significant association or relationship between the respondent's perception, the use of multimedia, and learning engagement. It can be gleaned From the concerned tabulated data above, the perception on using multimedia and effective engagement has medium relationship based on the R value 0.537,000. This is highly higher than p-value of 0. This signifies significant relationship, hence the null hypothesis that there is no significant relationship between the perception and the use of multimedia in students' effective learning engagement is rejected. It can be seen as well from tabulated data above that the perception on using multimedia and behavioral engagements has medium relationship based on the R value of 0.559,000. This is higher than p-value of 0. This signifies significant relationship. Hence, the null hypothesis that there is no significant relationship between the perception and the use of multimedia and students' behavior learning engagement is rejected. It is likewise noted that the tabulated data that the perception on using multimedia and students' engagement has high relationship based on the R value of 6300. This is higher than the p-value of 0. This signifies significant relationship too. Hence, the null hypothesis that there is no significant relationship between the perception, the use of multimedia, and a student's cognitive learning engagement is rejected. Finally, it is observed from the tabulated data that the perception on using multimedia and cognitive engagement has high relationship based on the R value of 658,000. This is relatively higher than the p-value of 0. This indeed signifies significant relationship. Hence, the null hypothesis that there is no significant relationship between the perception and the use of multimedia and students' learning engagement is rejected. Conclusions. The overall perception of senior high school students as to using multimedia in teaching learning situation can be deduced as agree. This only means that using multimedia as perceived by senior high school students can be used effectively in the classroom. The respondents agree in the idea that the multimedia provides an easier way for students and teachers in delivering information. It's very fun and interesting to be used, and multimedia promotes better understanding and additional information. However, they neither agree nor disagree in the idea that multimedia is better than traditional instruction, and multimedia does not create problems in the learning process. Number 2, the overall analysis on the level of effective engagement of the students when multimedia device is being utilized during class discussion is highly engaged. This is an indication that students' emotion or feelings is greatly influenced by the utilization of audiovisual learning materials. It has a positive impact on their interest in learning. The overall analysis on the level of behavioral engagement of the students when multimedia is being utilized is highly engaged. This is an indication that students' behavior is greatly influenced by the utilization of multimedia device. It makes them physically active and cooperative inside the classroom. It means their psychomotor skills are triggered and being maximized. The overall analysis on the level of cognitive engagement of the students when multimedia device is being utilized is highly engaged. This is an implication that students' cognitive engagement is also influenced by the utilization of multimedia device. It makes them mentally engaged inside the classroom. It signifies that minds perform better if visual and audio materials or tools were utilized in classroom teaching. A student's perception on using multimedia and level of learning engagement was significantly related or associated. The null hypothesis is then rejected. Again, I am Janice Bautista, Master in Educational Management, presented the thesis with the title Multimedia and Learners' Engagement among grade 12 students in District 6, Quezon City.
A pleasant day to each and everyone. So before anything else, allow me first to introduce to you myself. I am Mark Anthony Adarana, a public senior high school teacher at the Schools Division of Rojas City, detailed at Inzo Arnaldo Village Integrated School. But before we finally go to the meat of my study, to the meat of this academic work of mine, allow me first to share to you my main inspiration why I have conducted this study. The purpose of this is to at least give you a bird's eye view of the mental health condition of the youth in times of the pandemic. As a mental health advocate, at the same time, an advocate for youth, fact that the youth are considered to be one of the most vulnerable groups in our society nowadays. And they have experienced a lot in this unprecedented time. So allow me to share to you the fruits of my academic work with this research study entitled Psychosocial Impact of COVID-19 Crisis to the Young People in Visayas. So the outbreak of the novel coronavirus, formerly known as the 2019 nCoV, then formerly labeled by the World Health Organization in 2020 when it was declared as a pandemic as a severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, has dominated the headlines throughout the world from 2019 where the first case was noted, and in 2020 when it was declared as a pandemic and until now. As to the time of writing, the number of COVID-19 cases continues to rise as well as the number of deaths. Like for instance, here we have reported more than 500,000 as of the same date, and we are currently increasing as of the moment. Among the most affected group in this time of pandemic, most especially during the period where the quarantine was strictly instituted way back in 2020 from the months of March up to the months of May were the adolescents. The COVID-19 outbreak and the lockdown that was implemented may have multiple effects on the lives of adolescents, especially on their psychosocial well-being. Such, for instance, Gessom in 2020 articulated that consequences include chronic and acute stress, worry for their families, unexpected bereavements, sudden school break, and home confinement in many countries, knowing the fact that most of the schools during that time were shuttered. And also, there is a noted increased time of access to the internet and social media by this particular age group, and worry for the economic future of their family and the country, knowing the fact also that during that time, economic instability is very dominant. These consequences may be correlated with their experience of unprecedented interruptions to their daily lives. In the Philippines, U-Report in 2020 gave us a glimpse of what is happening in the ground, especially in the National Capital Region and in Mindanao. That during the quarantine, majority of the adolescents, to 56% from the total respondents that they have, felt worried, and a portion of them were scared. And weeks after, significantly, this showed that 31% of these adolescents and youth were still worried, which is still a high number, while 29% were sad and 18% were calm on the other hand. When asked about what they feel or why they feel that way, 22% of them told that it is due to the uncertainty of going back to the school, while 16% were conscious of their family, which talks about their economic stability and were uncertain of getting employed. Significantly, this number or majority of these adolescents and youth have observed changes in their moods during the last 2 weeks in quarantine. The fact that they are staying at home most of the time because of this limited movement, because of these movement restrictions that is being instituted by every local government unit, while 31% on the other hand have doesn't experience it at all. Because of this certain conditions that is experiencing by our youth in the time of pandemic, it prompted me and together with my team to conduct this study. So it rests on the research or on the descriptive research design that utilizes survey as a form of gathering the data needed. So we have commissioned youth volunteers across the island region of Visayas to help us in conducting this study. So the respondents of the study were 224 youth ages from 13 to 22 years old as our enclosure group coming from the island group of the Visayas, and the respondents were randomly selected to represent the 16 provinces, which includes two highly urbanized cities, which is Iloilo and Cebu City in the Visayas. They represent the three regions, Region 6, Western Visayas, Region 7, Central Visayas, and Region 8, Eastern Visayas. And the study basically used this what we call heads tool. I know every one of you or some of you are not yet familiar with this hedge tool. So hedge tool is a kind of screening tool that is being advocated by UNICEF that assess the risks that can be used for adolescents. So hedge is a kind of a acronym that represents a different aspect of the psychosocial condition or psychosocial status of a particular adolescent. It provides a systematic approach to the adolescent interview, progressing from the least threatening, such as their household structure, their educational experience, their employment experience, at the same time going to the topic that are considered to be most personal and sensitive, such as their suicidal thoughts, their relationship, and also their sexual activity. More so, this HEADS tool was instituted or was administered using a phone call, since we have commissioned youth volunteers across the island region. More so, aside from using a phone call to collect those data that is needed using the HEADS tool, we also utilize several social media platforms to really collect at the same time to have that neat and rich and vast source of data for our interpretation later on. So after the conduct of the study, we are able to come up with this result. So first and foremost, I'll be going to present to you the demographics of our respondents. So most of them came from Region 6 or Western Visayas, wherein the average age of the respondents is between 17 to 21 years old, very adolescent. And on the sex aspect, on the other hand, slightly it is dominated by the female, but looking at the ratio, they're almost equal at the same size or at the same time rather. While on the other hand, family size, most of them or majority came from a medium-sized family, which is around 3 to 5 members within the household. While on the other hand, their civil status or marital status is single, and majority of them are Christians, and a number came from the Muslim or Islam sector. While on the other hand, the status or the educational status of our respondents, most of them are in-school youth, wherein significantly the number came from high school, whereas 9.6 of them are out-of-school youth. Okay. So to note, 62.9% claim that they do not significantly felt sad during the quarantine period, which is opposite on the findings of U report, wherein majority of the respondents felt sad at the same time, worried during the time of the pandemic, which happens to be in the Mindanao and the National Capital Region area. Meanwhile, 12.9% of the adolescent was assessed to be at risk of developing depressions, where chances are higher to male participants with the age range of more than 22 years old. This means that based on the study, during the time of the quarantine, depression is very significantly seen, or the possibility of at risk of developing depression was significantly seen in the male population. On the other hand, 6.7% of them claimed that they were physically or emotionally hurt during the past 4 weeks, which covers the period of May 2020 in the height of your quarantine restrictions that was instituted on these selected areas. While on the other hand, 4%, which is a significant number, think that they wish that they are dead. Data also revealed that given the period of quarantine, 4.9% of the participants has a suicidal thoughts, which is a very large number considering that almost 5% of the total population felt that they have this kind of thoughts and ideation at them. On the other hand, 2.2% has attempted to commit suicide but failed to, or just what we call this one, attempted suicide acquisitions, in which the rate of the risk of commission is equal for both sexes. Other studies will suggest that suicidal commission is usually common on males, or female rather, whereas the successful attempt is accounted to male. But on this study, we saw that the rate of commission, the possibility of commission of suicide, no, is equal for both sexes, male and female. Common reasons includes anxiety, hopelessness, and extreme sadness, which are very evident and eminent during the time of the quarantine period. Looking at this situation in the respective homes, it is significant to note that most of them felt comfortable in staying at home during the quarantine period, which is from March to May as the study goes. And majority of them, or 76.9%, claim that they are. And the presence of the family members in their homes plays a significant role in their coping in the time of the pandemic. So we see here the very essence of having a good family dynamics. Since most of the respondents, of them felt sad during the disruption of classes because this is outside in the context of their usual day-to-day activity, while the rest felt either angry, frustrated, and happy. And if they are asked if they wanted to allow the opening of the school year in 2021, which was done last October, so majority of them agree that it's better to open the school year in 2021, or either way, when the vaccine is already ready and the vaccination program is underway and when the situation is under control. Whereas 21.9% disagrees with the implementation of online teaching. On the other hand, 66.1% agree. Common reason why there is a disagreement because of the existence of digital divide. Most of them doesn't have, or those individuals or those respondents who said that they are not into online learning and teaching because the fact that they are experiencing or having hard time to have an access to internet connectivity, at the same time because of the lackness or lack of ICT tools that will aid the teaching and learning process. The pandemic is characterized by movement restriction due to health protocols that is implemented in various communities. Hence, during the period of May to July 2020, 80.4% of the adolescents are actively engaged in body exercise, in which if going to check during those time, no, social media tells us that most of the adolescents are utilizing or are fond of using TikTok as a way to cope. More so, this is their own way of coping, as I have said, and since most of their time they are confined in their houses, so there's no any movement. So for them to really ventilate the need to go along, so they have utilized this possible activity. When asked about the negative impact of the quarantine to their daily activities, majority of them claim that the impact is only less observed. It is not significantly affected, and more so as part of the activities of the adolescents, their food intake, 95.6% claim that they have enough food supply. And moreover, 91.5% claims that their food supply in their home is enough to sustain the whole family members during the time of the pandemic. It is also interesting to note that 5.8% experiences missing meal. And the most common reason why they miss meal is either they lack appetite or because of this irregular sleep pattern. Because if we're going to look back in retrospect, during the time of the pandemic, we don't have that certain structure, the common structure that we usually follow in our day-to-day living in pre-pandemic drastic changes. That's the reason that our learner or our youth. So for those in relationship, in this part, when asked if COVID-19 had affected their relational dealings, 60.7% said yes. Because the common problems includes communication gaps and less interaction with one another. We could not deny the fact that this age group, the adolescent, they are what we call your social movers. They wanted to socialize with their peers, with their friends. So this movement restriction both brought about rather by the pandemic had changed everything. So more so, 32.4% of the respondents currently have access to any type of contraceptive during the time of the pandemic, wherein 4.9% has experienced also sexual abuse. This experience of sexual abuse is not only delimited during the time of the pandemic, but it also covers during the pre-COVID time. In general, adolescents and the youth are hopeful and positive that they can get through the challenges brought about by this pandemic. It shows the resiliency of the Filipino youth. It shows that the respondents can effectively cope with the challenges and problems brought about by this health crisis and its accompanying problems or issues. But we could not also deny the fact that there is still a need to ameliorate or to augment existing support mechanism to really let coping to become effective, and so that this youth could adjust effectively in the situation. So in conclusion, as I have said, COVID-19 pandemic and its accompanying lockdown had brought about a sense of fear and anxiety in all parts of the world. This occurrence had greatly affected everyone, especially the adolescents and the youth sector in general, that they are the one of those who are considered to be vulnerable. In the light of this study, data showed that the nature and extent of the impact of COVID-19 to the adolescent and to the youth depend on many vulnerability factors. This includes their developmental age. Early adolescent, late adolescent group have different coping mechanism. Educational status in school and out of school youth, there are different perception on how they are going to cope with the pandemic. Family dynamics played a significant role, much so of the individual coping. And there are also other issues and concerns that affects the coping and the adaptation as well as the flexibility of the youth. In general, adolescents and the youth are hopeful and positive that they can get through the challenges brought about by this pandemic. It shows that the respondents, as I have said, can effectively cope with the challenges and problems brought about by this crisis that we're all facing. But again, there is a need to ameliorate and to augment existing support mechanism to be able to cope and adjust effectively in the situation. Generally, if we're going to look at this time of pandemic gave us the outlook of the importance of mental health, not only in the part of the youth but also in the general population. Hence, we should give attention to it, and it is the high hopes of this research because of this information that was cultivated from the ground. We could be able to provide programs at the same time, projects to really address the need of the present time, which is the psychosocial health of our targeted population, which is in the youth. I hope that you have able to, or I am able to share with you at least a glimpse of idea of what is really happening on the ground as far as the psychosocial consideration and status of the targeted population, which is the youth of the society, is concerned. So thank you so much for allowing me to share the fruits of my academic work, and God bless us all.
Bago ko simulan ang aking presentasyon, binabati ko kayo ng isang magandang araw sa ating lahat. Unang-una, nais ko pong magpasalamat sa Bian Books Publication sa pamumuno ng ating masigasig na CEO at Pangulo na si Dr. Leonelo B. Capulso. Ang aking ibabahagi sa inyo ngayon ay may pamagat na pananaw ng guro sa epekto ng implementasyon ng Mother Tongue-based multilingual education sa pagkatuto ng mag-aaral. Nina Lourdes S. Bascuña, PhD, Associate Professor 5, College of Arts and Sciences, Central Bicol State University of Agriculture, Pili Campus, at Benjo C. Barleso, Instructor, College of Arts and Sciences, Central Bicol State University of Agriculture, Pili Campus. Narito po ang kaligiran ng pananaliksik. Ang pananaliksik na ito ay pinamagatang pananaw ng guro sa epekto ng implementasyon ng MTB-MLE sa pagkatuto ng mag-aaral. Ang MTB-MLE ay nakapaloob sa Section 5, Curriculum Development sa Republic Act 10533 na naglalayong gamitin ang mother tongue bilang wika mula kinder hanggang ikatlong baitang. Isinama ito sa bagong kurikulum upang matutong magbasa ng may pangunawa at maintindihan ng mabuti ang itinuturo sa kanilang unang taon ng pag-aaral. Naniniwala ang DepEd na ang paggamit ng mother tongue sa unang taon ng edukasyon ay makatutulong sa mas epektibo at mas mabilis na pagkatuto ng mga mag-aaral. Ang layunin nito ay matukoy at malaman ang epekto ng paggamit ng MTB-MLE bilang medium sa pagtuturo ng mga mag-aaral. Dumako naman po tayo sa kahalagahan ng pananaliksik. Ang pananaliksik na ito ay pinamagatang pananaw ng guro sa epekto ng implementasyon ng Mother Tongue-based Multilingual Education or MTB-MLE sa pagkatuto ng mag-aaral. Sa pamamagitan ng pananaliksik na ito ay maaaring mapalawig ang kaalaman ng mambabasa tungkol sa mga reaksyon ng guro sa programang ito. Ang resulta ng pananaliksik na ito ay magbibigay gabay sa mga taong maaaring maging sangkot sa pag-aaral na nakatala sa ibaba. Sa mga mag-aaral, sa mga guro, sa mga magulang, sa mga kurikulum, sa mga mananaliksik, at sa mga mananaliksik sa hinaharap. Dumako naman po tayo sa metodolohiya. Ito ay ginamitan ng disenyo ng pananaliksik na makikita natin sa kaliwang hanay, comparative na metodo na nakapaloob ang sampling technique at random sampling. At sa kanang hanay naman po ay nandito ang descriptive na metodo na nakapaloob ang mga respondente na may 6 na pong respondenteng guro simula kinder hanggang ikatlong baitang. At narito naman po ang resulta at talakayan. Sa talahanayan 3.4, batay sa resulta sa mga datos kung gaano ka-epekto ang Mother Tongue-Based Multilingual Education or MTBMLE. Gaano ka-epektibo, frequency, at percentage. Una, napaka-epektibo, frequency 1, percentage 1.67. Ikalawa, epektibo, frequency 29, percentage 48.3. Ikatlo, hindi masyadong epektibo, frequency 25, percentage 41.67. At ang ikaapat, hindi epektibo, frequency 2, percentage 3.33. At ito po ang naging konklusyon. Lumalabas sa nakalap na datos, 55% ng populasyon ang sumasang-ayon sa implementasyon. Sa kabilang banda, 45% naman ay hindi sumasang-ayon. Sa kabuuhan, mas maraming guro sa primarya hanggang sa ikatlong baitang ang sumasang-ayon sa implementasyon. Sa kabuang konklusyon, sa kabila ng mga negatibong epekto ng MTBMLE ay nangibabaw pa rin ang mga positibong epekto sa pagkatuto ng mga mag-aaral. Narito din po ang mga sangguniang ginamit. Yan lamang po. Maraming.
It is one of the most consumed beverage in the world. Coffee is a must-drink beverage to the majority with a reference to the people, especially the adults. Healthier and cheaper choice of coffee. Variants of coffee flavor all over the world were already produced, aiming for the discovery of alternative sources for coffee production. To create this product, the researchers analyzed some factors to produce a healthier and cheaper choice of coffee. As we all know, coffee is known as a beverage to the most people all over the world, known for making the drinker active because of its stimulating effect on the functions of the brain. Coffee acts as stimulant by its caffeine. Too much caffeine is also bad for our health. Me and my husband is a coffee lover, but along the way, naging acidic ako because heavy consumptions that I make may cause to some unpleasant symptoms like anxiety, headache, increase in blood pressure, and restlessness. But di ba nga tanggapin natin, pag nakasanayan na ng tiyan natin, and every morning, coffee is a part of it. But drinking coffee also affects humans' health. It has been studied to determine the effect of coffee because coffee contains several compounds which are known to affect human body, but again, there is a reason to drink coffee. To create a healthy and less caffeine, with malunggay, ampalaya, and okra seed powder as the ingredients. Why I choose these ingredients? We all know that all of the seeds are nutritious and full of vitamins and minerals. The first ingredients that I use is the Moringa oleifera, or the malunggay seed, which is also known as a horseradish tree or ben oil tree in English. It is indeed a very useful plant. It is rich in nutrient. The leaves, the flowers, and the fruits of malunggay are edible. Filipinos eat them as a vegetable. Malunggay seeds are apparently good for our gout, asthma, hiccups, and rheumatic pains. And edible naman po talaga ang seeds nito na ginagamit natin in some of our dishes like pinakbet and dinengdeng and many more. The second one, the ingredients that I use is the ampalaya seeds. Ampalaya seeds contains a mixture of flavonoids and alkaloids. Make the pancreas produce more insulin that controls the blood sugar in diabetics. Aside from vitamin A, B, and C, iron, folic acid, and antioxidant that protect the cells of the body from the damage of the radicals. Though we are removing the seeds of the ampalaya when we use it as our ingredients. And also, I researched on that matter. If we can eat the seeds of the ampalaya, the answer is yes. We will just get the white that coated the seeds. Last but not the least, seed that I use as my ingredients is okra seeds. We all know that okra can grow in a tropical and subtropical country and can also grow in that kind of area like the Philippines. Okra, as we all know, is edible. Kinakain naman po talaga natin siya. Okra seed again is rich in a high-quality protein when regards to it contains essential amino acids relative to other plant protein sources. So what are the process? What are the process I make to make that ma-okra coffee? The usual way in making coffee: sun drying, roasting, and grinding. So nakabuo po ako ng ma-okra coffee. Okay, to create a healthy coffee with less caffeine. So let's go now to the methodology of my study. Experimental method was used in this study to determine the acceptability and marketability of the produced coffee using malunggay, ampalaya, and okra seeds to arrive at a more precise result. We all know mental research has a vital role in the society, particularly in the improvement of the human life. Experimental method also research and scientific approach. Survey questionnaires were administered to the 90 respondents of Batasan Hills. Respondents are 20 to 30 years old, 31 to 40 years old, and 41 years old and above. After evaluated by the expert, I'm talking about the survey questionnaire, to ensure the validity of it, I asked an expert to validate the questionnaire. And this was also to determine the evaluations of the respondents on the finished product in terms of the sensory attribute or the appearance, aroma, taste, and texture. There were 3 different proportions I used in this study: 20%, 40%, and 20, 40, and 60 grams in every gram. There is a 70%, or the concentrations of the seeds are 70% of malunggay seed, 25% of ampalaya seed, and 5% of the okra seed to more better output. Trial and error to come up with the best mixtures of the ma-okra coffee. I also used Likert rating scale, where the range and descriptive values are presented. I secured a written permit in the Division of City School of Quezon City to conduct the research. I administered it to the consumer respondents, the 90 respondent, with taste test also. Okay, ma-okra coffee is the name of the coffee. 9-point hedonic scale rating for the level of acceptability for the criteria of the appearance, aroma, taste, and texture. This was also used to determine the level of acceptability and the marketability of the Okra coffee. In terms of the 4 criteria that I mentioned, appearance, aroma, taste, and texture, analysis of variance, ANOVA, this was also used to determine if there was a significant difference in the evaluation of the 3 groups of respondents on the acceptability of the Okra in 20, 40, and 60 grams. Let's go now to the statement of the problem. Okay, number 1. How did the adult 20 to 30 years old, adult 31 to 40 years old, and 41 years old and above respondents evaluate the level of acceptability and level of marketability of the malunggay, ampalaya, and okra seeds in terms of appearance, aroma, texture? Was there a significant difference in the evaluations, acceptability level of marketability of malunggay, ampalaya, and okra seed powder as a coffee substitute in terms of the aforementioned criteria? What was the level of marketability of the okra coffee as perceived by the adult 20 to 30, 31 to 40, and 41 years old and above? Study sought answer to the following. Number 4. Was there a significant difference in the evaluation of the 3 groups of respondents on the level of marketability of the okra coffee? Number 5. What was the physicochemical analysis of the prepared okra coffee in terms of potassium, moisture, potential for hydrogen, and calcium? And what were the comments and suggestions of the respondents to further improve the product? Finding an implication. So number 1, the adult 20 to 30 respondents evaluated the acceptability of the okra with 20 grams proportion in terms of appearance, aroma, taste, and texture. As a moderately acceptable with rated mean of 7.84 and very acceptable, and adult 30 to 40 and 41 above respondent as evidenced by the grand weighted mean rating of 8.44 and 8.28 respectively. This implies that the 3 groups have different perceptions on the okra seed as a coffee substitute. The respondent personally built conceptualization on the okra coffee. There was no significant difference in the evaluations of the groups of respondents on the acceptability of the malunggay, ampalaya, and okra seed powder as a coffee substitute with 20 grams, 40 grams, and 60 grams proportions in terms of appearance and texture. This implies that varying amount of powderized okra seed affect the taste, which the respondents build realization and establish taste-related association. Finding and implications. Number 3. So the adult 20 to 30 respondent rated the level of marketability of the Okra coffee a grand mean rating of 4.35, interpreted as high potential, with the adult 31 to 40 respondent gave it a grand mean of 4.60 VHP, very high potential, and those of 41 years old and above rated it 4.46 grand mean, which is a high potential for marketing. This means that there are significant differences among the evaluation of the three groups of respondents on the level of marketability. Number 4, the 30 grams portion has less calcium content, less moisture, and less potassium content, but high acidic compared to the other two proportions. On the other hand, the 60 grams proportion has the highest content of calcium, has a moderate content of moisture, is moderate acidic, and has a high potassium content compared to 20 and 40 grams. So as you can see, ito po yung mga components na na-test po. This was the component tested on my Okra coffee and UP Diliman at Analytical Services Laboratory and Earth Material Science Laboratories. About its components and contents, moisture and pH level, fresh seeds, processed seeds was tested. Result. Let's go now to the result. There was no significant difference in the evaluation of the three groups of respondents on the acceptability and marketability of malunggay, ampalaya, and okra seed powder as a coffee substitute. In terms of appearance, aroma, taste, and texture. There was no significant difference in the evaluation of the three groups of respondents on the acceptability and marketability of coffee with 20, 40, and 60 grams. For each proportion of powderized malunggay, ampalaya, and okra seed as a coffee substitute in terms of supply availability, consumers' demand, and cost of production. Let's go now to the comments and suggestions. The appearance, aroma, and taste of Okra coffee is almost the same as that of the commercial coffee sold in the market. The Okra coffee tastes very good, especially the 40 grams proportion compared to the other proportion. The Okra coffee is another alternative for commercial coffee. The researcher may consider promoting the Okra coffee as one of the products in the local market. The aroma, quality of the Okra coffee may be more improved by adding cinnamon to reach the possibility of the extreme acceptance of the respondents. The Okra seed is affordable when used as an ingredient. Yes, it's true. This is a 500 grams. This is a 500 grams that I did as a Okra coffee. So it contains 25 cups of coffee. It only cost 242 pesos for almost 9.68 per cups lang po. So sobrang mura, but at the same time, it's healthy and nutritious. Recommendation. The college student researcher may craft a project proposal on the production of the Okra coffee for possible research grants from the Department of Science and Technology. And the local government may promote the Okra coffee as one of the healthy coffee products in the local market. Future researchers may undertake similar studies on different seeds that could be a product utilizing other healthy ingredients. There is a saying, There are no secrets to success. There are no secrets to success. It is a result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failure by Colin Powell, former U.S. Defense Secretary. Again, preparation and hard work in seeking the answer to this study is the key to its success. So I will show you the references that I used in this study. So again, magandang araw po sa lahat at maraming salamat. Thank you for listening. God bless us all.
Good day to one and all. I am Marilyn G. Olivo, School Principal 2 of Canarem Elementary School, Victoria East District, Division of Tarlac Province. It is my honor and privilege to present with you my conducted applied research entitled Parents' Perception on Printed Modular Distance Learning in Canarem Elementary School, Basis for Proposed Action Plan. Parents are vital partners in educating learners. This is especially true today since face-to-face classes are not allowed amid the COVID-19 pandemic. For learners without resources to attend online classes, they are provided with learning modules which will they be used for this school year 2020-2021. To make learning possible for their children, parents preferred printed modules as the mode of learning. This was based from the results generated from the Learner Enrollment and Survey Form, or the LESF, conducted by most public elementary schools, such as in the school where the researcher is assigned as principal. In a modular learning delivery, parents or elderly siblings will be actively involved in their children's learning and will act as facilitators. They will guide and support the learning process of the children at home. They will help in accomplishing given home learning tasks in the learning modules. Along this context, the researcher decided to conduct a study that determined parents' perception about the printed modular distance learning modality. Since this is the first time that modular learning is being implemented, research is relevant so that findings will lead to improvement in the implementation of this kind of learning. Nobody knows when this non-face-to-face class will be lifted, so it would be best to strengthen modular learning. This study then aimed to consider the insights, opinions, and perspectives of parents about printed modular distance learning modality. The findings were the basis for the development of an action plan to strengthen the role of parent support as partners in the continuous learning of children in situations when face-to-face classes with teachers are not possible. This was the very reason why this applied research was conceived. Here are the research questions. Number 1, what are the parents' perception on printed modular distance learning, on distribution of modules, on retrieval of modules, time allotment, learning activities or assessment, safety and health protocols, and number 2, what action plan can be proposed to enhance parental support in the printed modular distance learning. Here's the method. This was a descriptive study wherein there are 50 parent respondents selected via convenience sampling. Weighted mean was used to analyze the responses, and questionnaires were distributed through Purok parent leaders. Here are the results on the distribution of modules. Parents agreed that the distribution was well organized. Parents claimed that the schedule of distribution was not a problem since their Purok parent leaders were the ones who brought the learning modules to their homes. On the retrieval of modules, Parents generally agreed that retrieval of the modules went generally well. Interviewed, their children needed more time to answer the modules and accomplish the activities indicated. There was no problem with the designated places to put back the modules and the schedule of the retrieval, but the length of time to return the modules was so short according to some parents. In terms of time, activities were so many in a short period of time. Although they agreed that time for reading was adequate, the problem was on the voluminous activities to answer. This is the reason why parents disagreed that the time allotment to accomplish the learning modules for each subject was adequate, or 2.30 minutes disagree. And children were able to cope with the subjects within the time given, or 2.30 disagree. In terms of learning activities or assessment, parents agreed that activities are enough to allow learners to acquire the expected competencies. Parents also agreed that learning activities were child-friendly and these were localized and realistic. However, some parents interviewed claimed that they could not understand other lessons in the module, so they could not help their children in answering the learning activities. Most parents only finished elementary education, so they had limited knowledge. On safety and health protocols, parents highly agreed that safety and health protocols were implemented in the school in the delivery and retrieval of learning. School was always clean and well maintained. Moreover, hygiene and sanitation were always observed. Findings imply the assurance and confidence of control of the spread of COVID-19 in the community because of the strict observance of health protocols by the IATF and the school authorities. Overall, implementation of printed modular learning was perceived by parents to be generally well, except for two challenges extracted from parent responses in the questionnaire. These were many learning activities to accomplish in the module in a short period of time, and inadequacy of some parents to help explain the topic to their children, so they could not answer some questions in the learning activities. The action plan, therefore, developed in this study will provide strategies to address these two challenges. What are the proposed action plan? Or the action plan to improve the implementation of the printed modular learning in the new normal. The first objective, to develop learning activities that doable in a given time. Strategy, rule of 5 strategy for multiple choice item, wherein teachers only will give 5 questions to answer per learning artwork. If teachers want an artwork as a learning activity, they have to give only 1 per learning concept. So teacher must meet during the development of learning modules so that they do not require students to do art activities at the same time for all subjects. Resources and timeline before the start of every quarter. Learning modules and learning activities. For the means of verification, we have the learning module and the meeting attendance. Another objective, to assist parents on how to guide their children in learning using the modules. Strategies, 2-day seminar for parents every quarter. School head and teachers can month to orient parents about the learning modules. Teachers will explain parts of the modules to the parents so they can assist or guide their children at home. Resources and timeline before the start of each quarter. Venue will be in the school. 50 pesos per parent will be allotted per day for the meals. And school head may use donations from LGUs. Means of verification, program, attendance, and documentation. Another one, to have better teacher-parent and community partnership for the delivery of teaching among the pupils. Strategy: Purok parent leaders may also be taught to help in guiding pupils in learning using the module. Resources and timeline all throughout the school year. Means of verification, we have documentation like pictures. For the conclusions, parents perceived that the modular distance learning was generally implemented well, except for the learning activities which they claimed were too many to complete in a given time period. Likewise, some parents claimed they could guide their children in answering the learning activities because they could not understand some topics or lessons. For the recommendations, school head must meet teachers during the module development so they can determine what learning activities to include in the module on a particular day. So school head may remind teachers not to give too many learning activities, especially for the pupils in the lower grades. Number two, parents should be oriented about the lessons in the modules, so they will be able to guide their children in accomplishing the learning activities. The orientation of parents must be scheduled for 2 days to cover all the lessons for the entire quarter. Teachers will hold the orientation simultaneously by grade level. For the reflection or the implication of this research in the new normal, teaching in the new normal is indeed challenging. For teachers, preparation of modules was a sacrifice as they have spent sleepless nights printing and putting together all the learning materials. Parents also had their difficulties because they did not have adequate education that could have given them knowledge to guide their children in accomplishing learning modules. However, these difficulties have to be taken as opportunities to learn. Teachers must be ready and flexible because nobody knows when this pandemic will end and when face-to-face class will be restored. Teachers should lead up to their noble job of teaching and developing the minds and values in whatever circumstances. Young people are the future leaders, thus, they need to be equipped and prepared for huge responsibilities to come. For the parents, they need to realize that parenting is not only providing children's materials needs, but also in helping them develop mentally, socially, emotionally, and spiritually. This means they need to be directly involved in the education of their children and fully cooperate with school efforts for the welfare of their children. So thank you very much for listening to my presentation. Once again, I'm Marilyn G. Olivo, School Principal 2 of Canarem Elementary School, Victoria East District, Division of Tarlac Province.
Good to the organizers, guests, and fellow presenters and educators. I am Cheryl Ruiz Garcia, Master Teacher 2 from Cabcaben Elementary School, Division of Bataan. The title of my study, Status and Challenges on the Implementation of Learning Continuity Plan in Public Elementary Schools. The outbreak of COVID-19 has greatly affected the different sectors of the government. One of the most badly affected sectors is the Department of Education all over the world. At the onset of the pandemic, classes were shut down as early as March 2020. Classes only resumed last October 5, 2020. To eliminate the education catastrophe, the Department of Education in our country has answered the call of UNESCO through the implementation of the Learning Continuity Plan that mandates the use of different modalities such as distance learning, face-to-face set with a class composed of 15 students, blended learning, and the modular approach. Since the means to be used in the delivery of quality education in the new normal are new to all the educators, specifically in the use of the learning management system by the school's division of Bataan. Educators have a boatload of questions on these modalities, especially in the use of e-learning. With this modality in mind, a research gap was made. The study was conducted in the light of better teaching modalities that can be used in times of emergencies. Specifically, the study aims to answer the following. What is the demographic profile of respondents in terms of age and designation? Are the teachers and school administrators familiar with the learning continuity plan of SDO Bataan for the school year 2020-2021? What are the teachers and school administrators' definition of the learning continuity plan? Are the teachers and school administrators familiar with the learning management system that will be used by the school's division of Bataan during the new normal setup? Is there a significant difference in the perception of teachers and school administrators about the implementation of the learning management system under the learning continuity plan for the school year 2020-2021 in terms of current status of the Philippine education system in terms of readiness in delivering milk using different modalities, guidelines in the implementation of learning modalities during the new normal, proper information dissemination about the learning management system, use of the learning modalities for synchronous and asynchronous meetings, provisions of learners' materials, guidelines on how to conduct synchronous and asynchronous meetings, reskilling of teachers for new normal, and knowledge of the use of e-learning platforms. Based from the standpoints of teachers and school administrators of SDO Bataan, what are the possible challenges that may be encountered upon the implementation of these learning modalities during the new normal? What solutions can be suggested to address these problems if ever that they have encountered them during the actual implementation in the school year 2020-2021? The study utilizes a quantitative research methodology. Data was obtained through the use of respondents are composed of elementary teachers and school administrators from the first analysis. The total computed sample is 328, composed of 66 participants for sample size 1, the administrators, and 262 for sample size 2, the teachers. For a clearer presentation, the results are divided into 8 parts. A. Demographic profile of the respondents. B. Familiarity of teachers and the school administrators on the learning continuity plan. C. Definition of teachers and school administrators on the learning continuity plan. D. The familiarity of teachers and school administrators on the learning management system. E. Familiarity on the different learning modalities and the respondents' preferences for the most suited learning modalities during the affirmity. F. Standpoints of teachers and school administrators in terms of the current situation of the Philippine education system in terms of readiness for opening the school year 2020-2021. G. Possible challenges that may be encountered upon the implementation of the learning modalities as perceived by the teachers and school administrators. H. Suggested possible solutions to perceived challenges. Demographic profile of respondent. The demographic profile of the respondent as described in terms of age and designation. Figure 1 and Figure 2 show the percentage of the teachers and school administrators who participated in the survey. Figure 1 respondents' age bracket. Figure 1 revealed that the bulk of educators and school administrators age ranged from 36 to 40 years old and followed by the age bracket of 45 to 40 years old. The least number of participants found to be from the age of 20 to 25. Figure 2, respondents' designation. In the case of the study, the allocation ratio between the school administrators is 1:4. Thus, we have 66 school administrators and 32 teachers as participants for the study. Figure 2 implied that 79.88% of the respondents are composed of teachers, while the remaining 20.12% have consisted of school administrators. Aside from that, the graph showed that the majority of teachers participants have Teacher 3 designation. The mandate of DepEd Order No. 12, Series of 2020 is the answer of the Department of Education to the call of UNESCO in preventing illiteracy. The graph on the right side shows the percentage of the teachers and administrators' knowledge about the Learning Continuity Plan. 97% of the respondents are aware of the Learning Continuity Plan of the DepEd and SDO Bataan, apart from 3% of the total population is unaware of the said mandate. Part of the Learning Continuity Plan is the use of Learning Management System. When the respondents were asked about the Learning Management System, 94.5% of 328 respondents said that they are familiar with the Learning Management System. The figure shows that 0.09% of 328 respondents are not familiar with the learning. Among the given modalities, the majority of the respondents considered the modular approach as the most appropriate learning modality. For the standpoint of the teachers and school administrators in terms of the current situation of the Philippine education system in terms of readiness for opening of the school year 2020-2021, 83 out of 328 respondents believe that COVID-19 pandemic had paralyzed the duties and responsibilities of the employees in the Department of Education. 236 out of 328 educators think that opening classes during the affirmity are not applicable at present. As shown in the previous charts, the results showed that there is no significant difference in the perception of elementary teachers and school administrators in terms of the readiness of the Philippine government and the Philippine education system in opening the classes for the school year 2020-2021. There is no significant difference in the perception of elementary teachers and school administrators about understanding the guidelines in the implementation of learning modalities during the new normal. There is no significant difference.
Measure relationship of gases or the Boyle's law. For the introduction, the eSIM or Electronic Strategic Intervention material will give an opportunity to the teachers and students to explore in various ideas and concepts that will enrich their understanding of the subject matters and will sharpen students' competencies. The eSIM Electronic Strategic Intervention material is conceptualized and designed to aid teachers in providing their students with the needed support to improve the level of competencies in their learning. Each intervention material contains 5 parts such as guide card, activity card, assessment card, enrichment card, and reference card. So here are the 5 parts of the strategic intervention material. The eSIM or the electronic strategic intervention material guarantees an alignment of activities with the task objectives, keep the activities short and simple, and provide a variety of activities to cater for the diverse learners. The designs of the eSIM or the electronic strategic intervention material are highly attractive and eye-catchy. That is why the teachers are encouraged to use these materials in the teaching learning process. So, for the research study, the objectives are the following. What is the effect of eSIM on pre-test and post-test of the students using the two strategies? How significant is the difference of the science eSIM as a teaching tool in the academic performance of grade 10? For the methodology, the researcher used the experimental design to 25 students of 10 Hope, the experimental group, and the 25 students of 10 Generosity, the controlled group, as the respondents. The researcher conducted the pre-test and post-test to evaluate the eSIM, used the weight mean to describe the score, and the t-test to find out the significant difference of the two groups of respondents. So this is the result now. From table 1, pre-test versus the post-test for the controlled group. The table shows that the computed t-test value is greater than the critical value. The mean is significantly different. Therefore, the null hypothesis is rejected. This is table 2, the pre-test versus the post-test, or the experimental group. As you can see, table 2 shows that the absolute value of the calculated t-test is greater than the critical value. This means that it is significantly different. Therefore, the null hypothesis is rejected. For table 3, pre-test versus the pre-test of the controlled and the experimental group. The table shows that the absolute value of the calculated t-test is smaller than the critical value. The mean is not significantly different. Therefore, the null hypothesis is accepted. Table 4, or the post-test versus the post-test of the controlled and experimental group. As you can see, table 4 shows that the absolute value of the calculated t-test is greater than the critical value. The mean is significantly different. Therefore, the null hypothesis is rejected. For the reflection, the level of academic performance of the students who use eSIM has higher mean score than the control group, which means that the use of eSIM is more effective than the traditional method in teaching the topic, the volume and pressure of gases, or the Boyle's law. The researcher recommend the use of eSIM to improve the academic performance of students and also to encourage administrators, science supervisors, and teachers to use eSIM on the least mastered topics. So for the keywords, the first one is eSIM or the electronic strategic intervention materials. Next is academic performance. The third is control group. Fourth is experimental group. And the last one is instructional materials. That's all. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. I, Diane Y. Ferrer, together with my co-author Elma H. Ilagan, is here to present my research entitled Towards Grammar Competency Level Improvement in Research Subjects of Grade 12 Senior High School Students in Fernando Urbis Integrated National High School. First, let's start with the background of the study. Grammar is considered as one of the essentials of language. Regardless of any language, competence in grammar is foundational to one's ability to communicate in a particular language. One's good grasp of grammar indicates the ability to send stronger messages and the probability of being logical and understood by others. To improve the student's grammar competency, one must reconsider the role grammar plays in English learning and in English writing, and come up with some practical and effective methods of instructing grammar to cultivate their grammatical competence as well as teaching grammar knowledge. Let us move on in the significance of the study. Grammar is a social phenomenon and a child learning language. Learns not just the rules of the grammatical structure, but learns them with reference to the social context. Notably, the rationale of this study was not to undervalue the powerful role of grammar in doing research works in senior high school. With the globalization of world economy, English learners' writing ability has been attached less and less importance to. The research significance, since the senior high school students will be required to write and produce 3 researches before graduating from senior high school. And focusing on grammar problems will equip them to come up with better research output in the future. For the methodology, the researcher used the 50-item test measuring the 5 grammar competencies of grade 12 senior high school students. Moreover, a standardized test determining the grammar errors was utilized in the study. The research included the 142 grade 12 students of Fernando Urbis Integrated National High School from 2 offered tracks, which were GAS and ICT. The research purposely selected grade 12 students since the respondents already finished Progress 1 and currently enrolled in Progress 2. The sample of this study is limited to senior high school grade 12 students who are learning research subjects for the academic year 2018-2019. The samples contained 142 students. Now for the research ethics. The researchers assured the respondents of confidentiality. Responses was maintained strictly confidential to ensure the privacy of their data. To ensure the confidentiality is truly protected, the researchers don't require the respondents to write their name on the research survey questionnaires. For the findings and discussion, results showed the 5 grammar components, which included sentence fragments, punctuation, verb tense shift, article use, and subject-verb agreement. It can also be observed that among the 4 sections in ICT, 2 sections from general academic strand get a 75% passing score out of 50 items, having 35.26 and 35.98 mean scores, respectively, from a 50-item test. It can also be inferred that the grammar component subject-verb agreement get the lowest mean score among the 5 grammar components. And for the conclusion, grammar competency plays an important role in English learning and in writing a research project, and that no language teaching can be successful without grammar instruction, and that no writing can achieve its writing purpose without the correct use of grammatical concepts. It can be said that language teaching is not just composed of grammar teaching, and that it is not sufficient to know grammar rules to be able to combine words in the target language. The main point is that the student can use grammar rules in the target language effectively and accurately in a meaningful way and in accordance with the context. Therefore, instead of a teaching process in which grammar is ignored in the language teaching process, it is necessary to design teaching processes in which it is important to create awareness based on language rules, enabling learners to use language skills more effectively and to make meaningful and contextually research outputs.
pleasant day to each and everyone, especially to our research panelists. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Michael Manalo Permejo, a teacher 3 of Leonardo de Veracruz National High School from Division of Quezon. Today, I am going to present my action research study entitled Sagip Pangarap Project, Liberating Students at Risk of Dropping Out. For the background of the study, Leonardo de Veracruz National High School is one of the secondary schools in Inisan district of Quezon that experienced problems in dropping out of students. The most reason why our students had dropped out of school is because of financial problem. According to Beta 2010, there must be orderly giving of more assets to school with high dropout rate, and it may offer assistance. This suggestion is one of the duty of the school to address the problem of those students having marginalized financial conditions, Cuerdo 2017. In this premise, that the researchers thought of Leonardo de Veracruz National High School increasing dropout rate. During the school year 2015-2016, the school has a dropout rate of 2%, equivalent to 10 students. On the succeeding year, school year 2016 to 2017 revealed a 4% dropout rate with 19 students in the list. These numbers are not good indicators of school performance and therefore alarming to both school and teachers. In this regard, taking into consideration the prevalent reasons of students for dropping out, the researchers designed a dropout reduction program called Sagip Pangarap Project. This program provides financial support and assistance from LDBC NHS teachers, combined contributions to select students who are in dire need to prevent them from dropping out in school. Sagip Pangarap grantees were monitored by their sponsors in terms of absences, grades, and participation in school activities. They were given guidance when something undesirable about their schooling occurred. 18 recipients of Sagip Pangarap Project were identified from among the list of SARDOs from grade 7 to grade 10. Their socio-economic status was validated through the use of interview and home visitation. The poorest among the SARDOs became qualified beneficiaries. These identified recipients were assigned a teacher to help them with their weekly allowance and other needs that their parents are unable to provide, like uniform, shoes, hygiene kit, and the likes. The researchers would like to find out the impact of Sagip Pangarap as an intervention in the increasing rate of dropout in Leonardo de Veracruz National High School. And for the significance of the study, students who are vulnerable in dropping out, thus the program aims to retain the students in their schooling and help them financially. Enlighten the minds of the school head and teachers that there were students encountered financial problems that caused them to drop out from school. This study also opened the minds of teachers and school heads that we must be compassionate, responsible, and dedicated in the nature of our work to protect the rights of our students to quality education. SARDO's parents enlighten the minds to assist their children in various ways, such as emotional support, spiritual support, and most importantly, the financial support in order to sustain their children's schooling. The stakeholders of their role in the school that in order to achieve a zero dropout rate, they must be engaged and share responsibility in addressing the problems and dropout rates of the school. The researchers utilized a descriptive method and questionnaire survey of those students at risk of dropping out from their advisors. Then a short interview was administered to them. To check and balance, I did a surprise home visitation and a short conversation with their parents without knowing my purpose. Then I was enlightened why these students were usually absent from their class. The researchers finalized who will be qualified for the Sagip Pangarap project. And that is a methodology. And another from that, the researchers prepared a research instruments validated by the school principal, and to ensure the reliability of the instrument, selected students of LDBC NHS which were non-grantees were asked to serve as respondents to pilot test the instrument. The result of the pilot testing became the basis for the refinement of the instrument and construction of the final draft. After identifying the problem, the researchers formulated the research title and submitted the research proposal to the Division Office of DepEd Quezon. Upon approval, the researchers sought permission to the principal of Leonardo de Vera Cruz National High School for the conduct of the research. And for the methodology, upon completing the necessary documents, the researchers administered the validated research instrument. After that, the retrieval of the research questionnaire, tallying, tabulation, and analysis of data followed. For the research ethics, confidentiality of the respondents' information wherein not to disclose and only used in this research study. Close contact interview among the respondents, an indoor interview between the researchers and respondents. The interview initially gathered another information of the respondent's background. Permission or seek approval of the respondent's parents in the research study letter was given to the parents respondents and signed respectively. Ethics data clause such as the researcher shall exclusively use gathered data for interpretation. The researcher's result findings shall be transferred to an authority of DepEd Quezon for further evaluation of the Sagip Pangarap project or any by means. This research follows government policy wherein the fundamental human right of privacy shall be protected and secured. For the findings and discussions, dropout rate to the implementation of Sagip Pangarap was at 4% or 19 students leavers. After implementing the dropout reduction program, it improved at 2.33% or 8 student dropouts. Respondents have an overall rating of 3.62 weighted average mean or strongly agree description on the positive impact of financial subsidy in their schooling. Respondents were strongly agreed that the financial subsidy helps them to cover the daily transportation, no longer experience starvation, buy supplies to be used for activities and school projects, pay mandatory school contributions, and other personal needs. The Sagip Pangarap obtained a 3.42 weighted average mean strongly agreed description. Therefore, huge transformation in their scholastic achievement among the respondents. For the findings and discussion, there is a significant difference in the rate of dropouts before and after the implementation of Sagip Pangarap project as evidenced by the computed absolute t-value of 4.37 and a critical value of 3.182. And for the conclusions, Leonardo de Vera Cruz National High School's dropout rate was significantly high before the implementation of Sagip Pangarap project. Provision of financial aid to students at risk of dropping out was contributory in saving students from leaving the school with an overall mean rating of 3.62 or strongly agree. Academic performance of the respondents have an overall rating of 3.42 or strongly agree, which implies that the initiated project has huge transformation in the scholastic achievement of the respondents. There was a significant difference on the students' dropout rate before and after the Sagip Pangarap project implementation. Therefore, the project prevented them from dropping out and it is very effective. Thank you so much for listening. I hope everyone is safe and sound. Once again, I am Michael Manalo Permejo. God bless.
Good day, everyone. I am Kame Jeffrey Discarga, and I am here to present to you our action research. So, COVID-19 pandemic. What comes to our mind when we hear or see the word COVID-19? So, according to the World Health Organization, coronavirus disease or COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by a newly discovered coronavirus. So, this is nothing new to us. Coronavirus disease has been around in our world for more than a year. And it has caused a lot of major problems, not just here in the Philippines, but also all around the world. Now, it started when President Rodrigo Duterte placed the entire Luzon on a lockdown to battle the coronavirus disease here in the Philippines. Due to the nationwide lockdown, people's movements are restricted and protocols are enforced. That is, people are required to wear face masks. Business establishments were also forced to close down. So, according to the Department of Labor and Employment, over 2,000 establishments closed down due to COVID 19. Well, those are just examples of the problems that arose following the COVID 19 pandemic. Now, there are a lot of other areas greatly affected by this COVID 19, and one of those areas is the Department of Education. So, how did this pandemic impact the Department of Education? So, school establishments were forced to close down. According to the UNESCO, most governments around the world have temporarily closed educational institutions in an attempt to contain the spread of the COVID 19 pandemic. These nationwide closures are impacting hundreds of millions of students. Several other countries have implemented localized closures, impacting millions of additional learners. So, what are the drawbacks in the closure of these school establishments? So, the students are forced to study at their respective homes. They're either doing the online learning, the modular learning, or the blended learning. So, following the closure of these school establishments, again, a lot of unprecedented problems arise. And one of those problems focus on the rise in teenage pregnancy. According to the Rappler, teen pregnancy is the most important problem of women today in the Philippines, according to their survey. Furthermore, teenage pregnancy or adolescent pregnancy is a pregnancy in a female under the age of 20 by definition. According to the Philippines Economic Development Agency in August 2020, teenage pregnancy is considered to be a national social emergency. Why? Because of the rise in number in teenage pregnancy. Furthermore, according to the University of the Philippines Population Institute, 751,000 unplanned pregnancies are set to happen this 2021, which is more than last year, which is 42%. So the numbers don't lie, and as we can see, the rise in teenage pregnancy is very alarming. Some of the reasons that can be linked to the surge of teenage pregnancies are lack of access to birth control, lack of information about sexual and reproductive health and rights, family community, and social pressure to marry, and sexual violence. So, the rise in teenage pregnancy can be linked to the uh, COVID 19 pandemic. Now that the students are forced to study at home, they lack of information regarding this topic in teenage pregnancy, and they lack of birth control knowledge. Now, one of the schools greatly affected by this rise in teenage pregnancy is the Cesar Sitan Memorial National High School. It is a school located here in the Philippines in Quezon Province. It is located in a small island here in Barangay Cuatro, Quezon. COVID-19 pandemic. Teenage pregnancy has become a major problem for the teachers of Cesar Sitan Memorial National High School. Did you know that there are 12 cases of teenage pregnancy just in the year 2020 when COVID-19 happened globally, which is very alarming. What can we think of solutions that will help stop this surge in teenage pregnancy? Now, due to the limitations of existing solutions in teenage pregnancy, we, the researchers, together with my co-researchers, Mr. Felix Balisa and Ma'am Mylene D. Galpa, and truly yours, I am Engineer Kiana Jeffrey de Discarga. I am here to present to you our action research entitled ACAP, Activating Knowledge on Adolescence Program, Preventing the Surge in Teenage Pregnancy During the COVID-19 Pandemic. ACAP. ACAP is a term that is derived from the Filipino word yakap. Yakap is a Filipino word which means to embrace. So by embrace, what do we mean? What are we embracing? We are embracing the students by equipping them with knowledge and tools that will help them become aware of teenage pregnancy. So it is a way of helping them get back on track after they become pregnant. And also, we aim to stop the surge in teenage pregnancy by informing or activating knowledge upon the students in Cesar Sitan Memorial National High School. ACAP also stands for the acronym for Activating Knowledge on Adolescence Program, Preventing the Surge in Teenage Pregnancy During COVID-19 Pandemic. Now, there are two programs developed by the researchers. Those are namely information sharing and financial intervention. So these programs were developed so the students would be able to have an information regarding the teenage pregnancy and financial intervention. Financial intervention is not necessarily about giving out money or cash. So I will be discussing that later on the following slides. So, methodology. How did we do this research? So our research lasted on a duration of 6 months. The data were collected from 12 respondents of Cesar Sitan Memorial National High School during the school year 2020-2021. The questionnaires are self-made by the researchers in line with the problems stated in this research. The respondents were administered by the researchers for the explanation of the purpose of the study. Parents of the respondents were also identified to be a source of income for their incoming newborn baby. So this will help them in their livelihood, and they can also earn a lot of money from these crafts and from the bread and pastry and cookery productions that we have uh, activated in them. So what is the demographic profile of the respondents? So the age of the respondents have an age of 12 years old to 19 years old. And according to our graph, 42% constitute greatly majority of 15 years old to 17 years old. And we also, in our questionnaire, their monthly family income. Majority of the respondents have a family income of 5,001 to 10,000 pesos. What is the situation of the respondents after they became young mother or father during the pandemic? So we use the Likert scale in our questionnaires. So there are 12 statements here. Number one, becoming a teenage mother or father is an unwelcome surprise for me, in which they strongly agree. They have less time to spend with their friends, strongly agree. They have no time answering the modules and studying, strongly agree. Their partner helps them in taking care of the baby, which is disagree. It is easy to become a teenage mother or father since responsibilities are shared compared to those older parents, strongly disagree. They had conflict with their family values, strongly agree. And as you can see, their parents support them in being a teenage mother, disagree. They hate their parents because they didn't guide them enough, Agree. They are having financial problems. Strongly agree. I have a source of income to support for our expenses. Disagree. I have knowledge on what to do after becoming pregnant. Strongly disagree. How effective are the programs established by the researchers in stopping teenage pregnancy in terms of information sharing? So in this one, we also use the Likert scale in order to know how effective our program is to the respondents. So the first one is information sharing. So as we all know, we have given them crops, and according to the Likert scale, it is proven to be very effective as all of their answers are strongly agree. They all strongly agree that the crops given to them can help relieve their stress. It is easy to plant in their backyard. They can benefit from it. They could earn money from it. And the pamphlets given to them are easy to understand. There are also baking recipes and cooking recipes that is given to them through the form of pamphlets. And it is also proven to be effective as they all answered strongly agree. The other one is how effective are the programs established by the researchers in stopping teenage pregnancy in terms of financial intervention. So we also use the Likert scale in order to know how effective is the financial intervention program in helping them in their teenage pregnancy. So it is also proven to be very effective as the pamphlet on teenage pregnancy is very informative. They learned a lot from the from the pamphlet given. They have become aware of their situation as a teenage mother or father. The pamphlet gave them knowledge about teenage pregnancy. So overall, the pamphlet given to them is proven to be very effective in helping them know about their status in being a teenage pregnant. So for conclusion, number one, from the data obtained from the demographic profile of the respondents, the family monthly income were also taken and results show that majority of the respondents have a family monthly income of 10,001 to 15,000 pesos. It also showed that majority of the respondents have an age that ranges from 15 to 17 years old, which is very alarming considering that they are only 15 to 17 years old, yet they are already pregnant. Number two, results showed that majority of the respondents weren't ready when they became teenage parents and that it caused them to have no social life and have no time to spend with friends. It can also be concluded that many conflicts arose when they became teenage parents, such as having financial problems, having conflict with parents, and having problems with taking care of the baby. And last, number three, the programs on information sharing and financial intervention are proven to be effective.
Value of 0.103, therefore, there is no significant relationship between principal leadership style and teachers' performance. Lastly, we move on to our conclusions. Based on the findings of the study, the following conclusions were derived. There are three conclusions. Number one, the teachers considered principal leadership style practices as frequently true for being authoritarian, autocratic, and participative. However, the most commonly used leadership style in the district of North Soderay East District is democratic style, which is a bit higher than authoritarian, but still under frequently true. While teachers find it seldom true for participating or practicing the legislative laissez-faire style of their school principals. Number two, majority of the teachers' work performance was rated as very satisfactory. And lastly, number three, there is no significant relationship between principal leadership style and teachers' performance. And this is Mary Rose M. Celestina from Polytechnic University of the Philippines saying thank you for listening to my research entitled The Principal Leadership Style and Teachers' Performance of Selected Elementary Schools of District of North Soderay East. Thank you and have a good day.
Good day, everyone. I'm so proud and grateful for this opportunity that you have given to me in order to present this study which I have made way back 2016, the His or Her Heart. In the public schools, excellent principals are sense makers who help create a sustainable school climate that will enhance students' and teachers' opportunity. You know what? If the school has a very good climate, which is conducive for every learners as well as for the teachers, it's so possible that the students' productivity and teachers' productivity will enhance, and it is the principal who must make up plans on how the school climate will come into a reality. The effective leadership qualities of principals increase a group's productivity by helping everyone in the group become more effective. So this is so true that everyone in the school, not just the principal, but every teachers, parents, and other stakeholders must help one another in order that the school will get its objectives, the goals into a reality. School effectiveness and school improvement researchers have shown that the principal or the head teacher is the single most important individual towards the success of an institution. This is according to Denham 2005, Miller 1995, and Townsend 2007, which is make an evidence because they have conducted researches that the principal or the school head, he is the one who make the decision managing the school and plans in order that the success of the institution of the school will come true. Ageso on 2010 asserts that an effective school leader is the keystone of a successful school. Without competent school leadership, efforts to raise student achievement cannot succeed. The quality of education or the quality of school leadership is one of the major factors which affect teachers' commitment and their motivation to remain at or leave a school. Teachers also play an important role in educating the future members of the society through their work in schools. They have a critical role in advancing economic and technological development and sustaining the well-being of the societies they serve. So this is true that the teachers play the very important role in educating the future members. When we say future members, these are the learners we are serving, the learners we are molding in order to be a productive citizens in the near future. Consequently, it is necessary that the factors influencing the teacher's commitment in schools and in the community must be the focus of research leading to the introduction of reform and change within the classrooms, institutions, learning centers, and the national system of education. The quality of education and the teaching profession depends mainly on the teachers who guide and carry out most of the tasks and activities of education that take place within the school. The teachers play a very significant role in supplying, supporting, and promoting instruction and learning of high quality. So this is very important that the teacher must have a deep commitment in the hearts in order that he or she can supply the learning, support the learners, and promoting instruction, effective instruction in order the high quality education that the DepEd is looking for must comes into the reality. And all of this is because for our learners we are serving. Hence, quality education cannot be achieved without the efforts of dedicated and highly committed teachers who inculcate and nurture values that will guide the subsequent use of learning of both knowledge and skills. So this is very important, that if the teacher is really committed in his work, in his task, and in performing his duties, it is so possible that the quality education that every learning is looking for, it will be evident in the eyes, and as they performing and applying those learnings that the teacher transferred to them, there you can see the quality education. Part 2005 advanced to reason why teacher commitment should be emphasized in the field of education. First, commitment is an internal force coming from within the teachers themselves who need greater responsibility, variety, and challenge in their work as their level of participation in education grow. Second, there are external forces directing both reform and development in education in seeking higher standards and greater responsibility that are dependent upon each teacher's combined efforts. So here in the work of Park, way back 2005, he emphasized how important the commitment of every teacher in the field of education. So here we can see that in order that he can perform well, he can give the 100% best in teaching our learners. Elliott and Croswell 2001 remarked that the term commitment has been used to distinguish those teachers who are caring, dedicated, and take the job seriously rather than those who put their own interest first. So this is one of the qualities of a very good teacher, that he always show caring, dedication, and take the job seriously. And he or she never think of his personal interest. The significance of this study, at first this is important especially to the Department of Education or DepEd, because the result of this study or the result of this research could serve as their basis to formulate more intensive intervention program to achieve its long-term development goals. Yes, as what we are experiencing right now, the Department of Education launched different intervention programs, but in this study, the Department of Education could think the best or formulate the best intervention program which is applicable to every teacher, school, and every learner in order to achieve its long-term development goals. Secondly, this study is also important for the regional education officials and planners, because the result of this study could serve as inputs in preparing the plans for the schools, especially on how to improve the leadership qualities of all the principals and the commitment of teachers as well as their performance. This is also important for the schools division educational planners, because the result of this study could be an eye-opener for them to fully understand the leadership qualities of the school heads and the teachers' level of commitment as well as their performance. This is also important. This study is also important for the school administrators, because the result of this research would give them an idea of the suitable leadership qualities that they should possess, so they can make their own reflection on what kind of leadership qualities that are in every situation, because in every situation, in every type of people, in every environment, there must be a suitable leadership qualities that they must possess. And this study is also important for the teachers. This study could help them realize the importance of their work commitment, not just to improve their performance for a higher position, but to give their students better quality education. And this is also important. This study is also important for our learners. They shall be the foremost attitudes, processes that are ongoing, effects that are being felt, beliefs, points of view, or trend that are developing. In addition, Calderon and Gonzalez 2004 said that descriptive method is a purposive process of gathering, analyzing, classifying, tabulating data about prevailing conditions. So this is the type of research which has been used in this study. I used the descriptive method. I also use the service questionnaire in order to get the attitudes that is evident in every school which has become the proponents, the part of this study. So these are the 22 schools who participated as respondents of this study. I have here the list of 22 schools. So, the respondents of this study, first, all the principals of these 22 schools. And for the teachers, the respondents are only 20% of the total population of each schools. So, to sum it up, there were 22 school heads or principals and 451 teachers, with a total of 473 respondents who participated actively in this study. The questionnaire consisted of two parts. The first one elicited the perception of the teachers and school heads respondents on the leadership qualities of the school heads in terms of the following, which is the empowerment, instructional leadership, responsibility, conflict management, and personal values and beliefs. The part 2 of this questionnaire was elicited the perception of the same group of respondents as regards to the teacher's work commitment in terms of the following: the personal factors, organizational factors, non-organizational factors, instructional competence, professional characteristics, and parents and community involvement. In this study, I also used the 4-point Likert scale to interpret the gathered data with the corresponding ranges and interpretation. So I have here the Likert scale which has been used for this study. For the scale 1, which range from 1.00 with the approved letter of the division superintendent. After the permission was granted by the principal, the questionnaires were personally administered the respondents and retrieved from them also. I also asked from the school's principals as well as to the teachers the copy of the performance appraisal systems of teachers. So in this part, I also consider the confidentiality, because there were schools who just gave me the summary of the performance appraisal systems of teachers, which is the general average of the past of every teachers, and the names of of the teachers as well as the personal infos were respected, because I know the importance of privacy to every individual. So I did not force them to write their name and to put their personal data for their own privacy and for the confidentiality. So the result of this study, the teacher respondents perceived that the school head's leadership qualities in terms of empowerment, instructional leadership, responsibility, conflict management, and personal values and beliefs were all practiced very often, as manifested by their general weighted means of 2.86, 2.89, 2.89, 2.90, and 2.86 respectively, with a grand weighted mean of 2.88, which repeated as very often. On the other hand, the teachers were very often to their work, as shown by the grand weighted means of 2.84 and 3.39 respectively. The third one, most of the teachers performed very satisfactorily during the school year 2012 to 2015 based on the result of the performance appraisal system of teachers or past. However, 4 teachers got an outstanding rating during the school year 2013 to 2014. So this is a very good result, that in spite of so many duties and responsibilities which are performing by our teachers, they still manage to be an outstanding during that school year. Next, there was a significant difference between the perceptions of the teachers and the school heads respondents on the school heads leadership qualities in terms of the 5 criteria as shown by their computed T values of 5.19, 7.03, 12.59, 6.69, and 8.09, which were all greater than the tabular T value. Of significant difference between the perception of teachers and the school head respondents on the teacher's level of work commitment on personal factors, organizational factors, non-organizational factors, instructional competence, professional characteristics, and parent and community involvement, as evidenced by the computed T values of 4.31, 3.65, 3.02, 4.55, and 3.07 respectively, which were all greater than the tabular T value of 2.776. There were significant relationships between the school head's leadership qualities and school head's leadership qualities and teachers' performance, as evidenced by their computed T values of 4.64, 2.12, and 5.14, which are all greater than the tabular T value of 1.96. Finally, a faculty development plan in the form of a 2-day seminar on school heads leadership qualities and teachers' work commitment for the 22 public elementary schools are staying at home. Then we, the teachers, are still in our homes. It is very much important that we teachers must know how to show our creativity and resourcefulness, and prepare innovative instructional materials for every learners, for our learners. Okay. Arriving in school on or before the official time, establishing good partnership and relationship with the parents as well as the communities. So we are not just working within the school premises. We are not teachers within the school premises, but during the time that we go out the school, we are still teachers, so we must possess the good attitude and characteristics of a good teachers. So for the conclusion, the school heads have already developed a very good leadership qualities in terms of empowerment, instructional leadership, responsibility, conflict management, and personal values and beliefs. Secondly, teachers' work commitment has reached a high level in terms of personal factors, organizational factors, non-organizational factors, instructional competence, professional characteristics, and parents and community involvement, but some specific factors still need to be further improved. Third, most of the teachers performed very satisfactorily during the 3 consecutive school years from 2012 to 2015 based on the results of the performance appraisal systems for teachers are passed. The school heads and the teachers differ from each other in their perceptions of the school head's leadership qualities, so this is very much evident. They showed honesty. They have shown honesty in answering the questionnaires that I have given to them. Fifth, the school heads and the teachers differ in their perceptions of the teacher's level of work commitment. Number 6, there are correlations between the school head's leadership qualities, teacher's work commitment, and teacher's performance. So, as what you can see, there is a relationship between the school head's leadership qualities and to the teacher's work commitment and teacher's performance. Finally, a comprehensive development program is needed to enhance the school head's leadership qualities and teachers' work commitment to work. So we all know that school heads already have these leadership qualities and the commitment of teachers, and the commitment also shown by the teachers, but there must be an enhancement in order that the quality education will all be achieved sooner or later.
Before and after the implementation of the project. Number 4, what is the implication of the findings of this research for improving the level of performance of grade 10 lab students in answering mathematical word problems? This is a descriptive quantitative research. The study was conducted at San Isidro National High School with the 24 grade 10 lab students for a duration of 7 weeks. Non-randomized sampling was used in this study since all the grade 10 lab students regularly attending the project sessions were used as participants. The result of the first periodical examination of 40-item multiple choice test question, checked and validated by the principal with a mean of 28.6 and an MPS of 71.58, was used as the basis of the respondents' performance before the implementation of Project 5Q. Through the result of the first periodical exam, the researcher did able to identify those students that belong to the upper average group, and lower average group using the proposed standard of achievement as stated in DepEd Order Number 46, Series of 1983. The researcher integrated 5-cube by implementing it once a week. During the 5-cube session, the teacher allotted 20 minutes of the time for the activities intended for the project. Articles, topics, words, and questions given to the students were based on the desired learning competencies for the day. After obtaining the result of the second periodical examination, the researcher started to do the statistical treatment. She used mean and MPS to quantify the result and t-test for dependent samples to test the significance. Respondents' parents' consent was secured for ethical consideration. After the conduct of the research, the researcher arrived at the following findings. The table and test statistics reveals the following. 19 out of 24 students' scores in the second periodical examination showed an increase of 1 to 10 range, while 5 of them shows a decrease of 1 to 2 range, implying that the increase in their score is dominant compared to the decrease. Comparing their mean and MPS, it shows a notable increase from 71.58 to 77.40, reaching the above average level. The test for significance shows that t-value 2.987 is greater than the critical value, which is 2.069, indicating that the two sets of scores have significant difference at 0.05 level. Thereby, the researcher rejects the null hypothesis. There is a significant difference between the level of performance in answering mathematical word problems of grade 10 lab students before and after the implementation of Project 5Q. The researcher arrived at the following conclusions. Number 1, the grade 10 lab students have a below average level of performance in answering mathematical word problems before the implementation of Project 5Q. Number 2, the grade 10 lab students reach the above average level of performance in answering mathematical word problems after the implementation of Project 5Q. Number 3, there is a significant difference between the level of performance in answering mathematical word problems of grade 10 lab students before and after the implementation of Project 5Q. What are the implications of this research? Mathematics teachers, both in elementary and secondary, who can read this action research can adopt the method used that can be an effective approach in letting the students answer mathematical word problems accurately, as well as one of the effective tools in improving students' literacy level. Junior high school teachers will also be benefited since excellent knowledge in answering word problem when they enter junior high school will mean easier grasp of higher level problem-solving questions and can contribute to a more effective teaching learning process. Number 3, the students, as the center of the educational system, will be benefited with this effective strategy in teaching since they will be equipped with knowledge and skills that can make them mathematically literate and excellent word problems manipulator. Based from the conclusions, the researcher gives the following recommendations. Number 1, from the result of this action research, ability to read, write, and understand articles or sentences is a great help in developing students' skills in solving problems. Motivated by this, teachers should encourage and motivate students to enhance their reading and study habit. Number 2, using Project 5Cube is also an effective way to develop student skills in understanding and analysis, and it can also be used in any field of discipline. Number 3, anecdotal records during the sessions, which the researcher did not able to do, can be created through observations during the Project 5Cube sessions. The researcher believed that it can be of big help if other research related to this will be conducted. According to Neil Armstrong, research is creating new knowledge. Thank you and good day.
Good day, everyone. I am Princess Orlene S. Moyo from Caloocan High School and, of course, from the Polytechnic University of the Philippines. I'm about to present to you my research entitled Responsible Media Usage Program, or RMUP, to enhance media literacy of student journalists of Caloocan High School. Let me present to you the background of the study. Media has been in the system of the students today. Media consumption has been undertaken seriously, for others may have spent 6 to 8 hours a day just to give themselves the pleasure of staring and glaring into the blue screen. Because of easy access of internet information, people may not want to even check the source of information, for it offers various information and checking may be tedious to do. Some just get data from the internet even without checking the credibility of the source. One characteristic of a responsible journalist is being curious. Curious in the sense that one must not look after to the news he or she will write or report, but look for the truth. The truth comes along with credibility, and this is where media literacy comes in. According to Offendier in 1993, media literacy is the ability to decode, analyze, evaluate, and produce communication in different ways and forms. McAhon, on the other hand, defined media literacy, which is a serving tool in order for the students to become analytical and critical in society, which eventually leads to a greater chance of engaging themselves in social issues and activities. More in 2001 said, an increase on media exposure also increases the ability to search different avenues of knowledge and information, which greatly help in student development. Online news or information has been a trend in media world, for it delivers fast, easy, and on-the-dot news report, which is a requirement to this fast-pacing world. But the question is, how reliable and true the news published? According to Hendricks in 2019, when you went into internet sources, the balance has been compromised. For people are seeking to add data to their existing stand to get the information of the opposing information rather than knowing and getting the facts, which is first and foremost important in dealing with information and data. As an advisor and trainer of journalism, the researcher observed that student journalists, during the process of making the newspaper, are still having difficulties in deciphering which information and data are relevant and irrelevant, which tells the truth and which is not. Student journalists must be literate in analyzing and evaluating media materials. This research seeks to help the student journalists understand the importance of media literacy in their role as responsible and credible campus journalists in delivering news and information which will not compromise one's credibility, for they serve as bridge that connects students to truthful news reporting and presenting. Significance of the study. Seminars or training programs help one widen his or her knowledge or skills on current trends and opportunities. If one attends a seminar, he or she must be open to the fact that his or her knowledge is limited and needs enrichment. It is going to be a win-win situation both for the participant and to the organization, for it may improve the performance of the attendees. In this regard, the organization will definitely be the main benefactor of the learnings gained during the training. As part of the journalism circle, one must not only know what to write, but must understand how to. One must also carry the importance of ethics in every word he or she will write. The RMAP of the Responsible Media Usage Program is a seminar workshop which aims to let the student journalists understand the importance of media literacy, particularly in writing news articles or reports for the newspaper. One must be able to practice the value of responsibility, credibility, and trust in getting information from various sources. Their ability to decipher and write which material expresses truth and credible information, and their skill, of course, to identify which will not or will be reflected in the newspaper is the primary responsibility of a student journalist. RMOP helped the student to translate their honest ideas into writing, using information from the net and other sources for media communication. The said 3-day intervention will be conducted before the student journalists start working with their school paper publication. A practitioner from media or communication industry or a teacher trainer shall be invited as the speaker facilitator. The topics will be more on media literacy and on how to be a responsible media communicator. After the seminar, the student journalists working with their publication will be working with their publication. From the articles written, the researcher will now evaluate if the learnings in the seminar workshop has been proven to be effective or not. Methodology. The participants of this study were the 24 student journalists from The Voice, which is the official newspaper in English of Caloocan High School. The participants were chosen from there will be translating the learnings they acquired into the intervention program into their respective newspaper. Being able to understand the importance and purpose of media literacy, they will be able to deliver truthful, concrete, and ethical news article to their fellow Calhayans. Data gathering procedure. To the study used a situational survey questionnaire to collect the data needed. These were given before the seminar, and same set of survey questionnaire were answered by the participants right after the seminar. The results were collected through tally and frequency. Weighted mean was used to present the result of each item from the questionnaire. Applying the Likert scale of 1 to 5 with verbal interpretation were used to be able to get the data needed in the study. 1 as always, 2 as often, 3 as sometimes, 4 rarely, and 5 as never. The following tool were used to extend the results of the respondents. Likert scale was used to rate how student journalists view themselves in terms of values preferences in terms of media literacy. Researcher also used a survey form which measured the level of understanding of the respondents in terms of media literacy and how they execute such. Percentage and frequency distribution were used to present the profile of the respondents. A preference of the student journalists should possess in a view of the activities they do as part of the media literacy during the pre-implementation of the RMOP and post-implementation of the said intervention. Weighted mean of the respondents of their preference and leadership values was collected in displaying the most preference values as student categorized by numerical values of 1 to 5, 1 as always observed, and 5 as never observed. These measure was used to highlight the best observation of the respondents on the media literacy. The values above the weighted mean was considered high preference values, while the values below the weighted mean was least or low preference values. Research ethics. During the pre-implementation program or activity, all materials of the study were prepared at hand, such as the list of participants, letter of permission from the authority, the school head, subject teachers, and of course the parents of the participants and the participants as well. Formulation of questionnaires and the training matrix were also done at this point of the study. Implementation proper RMOP is the acronym to be used on the said seminar activity. Full participation of the student journalists was observed. Application of all possible support from other sources, such as inviting the speaker, sorry for the error, guidance counselor, conducting seminar, preparing venue, and food for the participants were accomplished. Now, at the post-implementation, collected data were analyzed and computed using the frequency weighted mean. Results were ranked to highlight the values more valued by the student leaders. All data gathered were treated with confidentiality. Let us now proceed to the findings and discussions. Findings and discussions. RMOP has been a useful tool for the student journalists to widen their understanding on media literacy and how this knowledge can serve as a tool in deciphering which information talks truth and credible information. The following are the data collected. Okay, so the data shows how often the student journalists use the following media as a tool of information. It has observed that internet before the RMOP has all considered as always. So most of the respondents use this media in getting information. Okay? Overall, the respondents often use the media platform as source of information and data. Ranking of characteristics of a good campus journalist. They believe that being truthful, to be followed by being responsible, and being credible must be at hand when you are considered as a student journalist. Okay? So based on the result gathered, being truthful, again, rank first, and being responsible, and credible. Now, on the third table, we are now working on values observed by the student journalists before the RMOP. Table 1.3 shows how the respondent responds to the following situation. Most of the respondents view the situations given as often observed, particularly on items 1 to 9, 14 to 19, where the items 10, 12 were rarely observed, and items 13 and 20 were always observed. Now, during the post-implementation of the RMOP, it is now observed that the students have gained that they must be responsible, to be followed by being honest, and third, be credible in writing in a news report, or writing a news report. While on table 2.2, it shows that how the respondents would do or execute the given situation. In total, the respondents responded often on the given situations, particularly on numbers 1 to 9 and 11. Now, in numbers 14 to 20, situations under number 10, 12 are rarely cited, and situations on number 13 and 20 are still considered as always. So overall, the respondents found the given situation often cited, with weight that they consider that. In conclusion, as a result of the pre and post survey questionnaires, the researcher identity surveys, such as inculcated survey questionnaire seminar, reliable, and the qualities and others, will be it can be achieved the mission. And being a student journalist is both a responsibility and an opportunity. Opportunity in the sense that one is given a chance to serve and give back to the system they are serving. It can open many doors of improvement and development in one's skills and talent. It gives one a chance to expose to others. Occasions which information will be and efficient as they were before, for they have acquired the skills and the user. Among the Okra, it's obviously that they have really acquired something during the workshop. So, the paper has. And with that, I would like to thank everybody for listening and joining me as I present my research to you. I wish everybody be safe. God bless po sa ating lahat. Thank you po.